Chapter 33:28. The Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe. The crowd did not have to wait for long. When the 9 tribes gathered at the front of the square, the door of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall slowly opened. A group of people walked out of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall slowly. Everyone looked at the group of people walking out of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall. They were immediately attracted by the graceful figure at the front. She was a female sorcerer. Her skin was as white as snow and looked so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. She was dressed in a colorful robe and held a golden scepter in her hand. The moment they saw the female Sorcerer Tribe member, all the people in the square stopped talking and looked at the female Sorcerer Tribe member in awe. She must be the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe. Zhuan asked Jingshan, who was not far away. Yes, she is the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe, Wu Wuxian. She is also the creator of the highest level of array formation and alchemy in the untainted sky domain. Even the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe has to give her face. Jingshan said. Hearing this, Zhuan nodded. He had long heard of the Sorcerer Tribe's High Priest Wu Wuxian. In addition, there was an even more mysterious and powerful Holy Master in the Sorcerer Tribe. The Holy Master rarely appeared in public. Wu Wuxian was in charge of all the matters of the Sorcerer Tribe. Zhuan had thought that the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe would appear at the start of the Sorcerer Song Festival. He did not expect Wu Wuxian to host the festival. This disappointed Zhuan and the other people who had been expecting the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe. Wu Hongmiao followed behind Wu Wuxian. His eyes were full of confidence and excitement. Zhuan could tell at a glance that Wu Hongmiao must have used the divine elixir he had traded with Zhuan to stabilize his mid-terminal master status. There were 2 young disciples of the Sorcerer Tribe who were walking side by side with Wu Hongmiao. What surprised Zhuan even more was that although the auras of the 2 Sorcerer Tribe disciples were weaker than those of the Sorcerer Tribe disciples, they were not much weaker. They were also at the initial stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. These 2 people are also geniuses of the Sorcerer Tribe. They are Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin. These 2 people's cultivations are also at the early stage of Master Tong Tian, but because Wu Hongmiao's wizard body has reached 8 stars, he is far more powerful than Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin. Although there is not much difference between the 3 of them, Wu Hongmiao's strength is stronger than Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin's. However, now that the Great Shaman Temple has successfully advanced, the gap between him and Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin has become even greater. Alright, in the past, Wu Hong Temple, Wu Xiuran, and Wu Wenbin were called the 3 heroes of the Sorcerer Tribe. Back then, they caused a sensation in the primitive heavenly realm. Perhaps Jingshan noticed the astonishment in Zhuan's eyes, but she quickly explained to Zhuan about the 2 witch tribe disciples in the Witch Flood Temple. Upon hearing this, Zhuan nodded his head. He was even more fearful of the Sorcerer Tribe now. The Sorcerer Tribe was indeed powerful. Among the young disciples of the Sorcerer Tribe, they were able to nurture 3 geniuses at the level of Master Tong Tian. Didn't that mean that the Sorcerer Tribe had even more experts at the Master of Heaven level than the Phoenix people? When he thought of this, Zhuan's gaze became extremely solemn. If the Sorcerer Tribe was truly far more powerful than the Phoenix people, he doubted that even if his Pangu's sacred body broke through to the 8-star level in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, would he be able to escape from the encirclement of the experts of the Sorcerer Tribe? He was not so sure about his answer. At this moment, in front of the square, the tribe leaders of the 9 great tribes all went up to greet Wu Wuxian. Their gazes were filled with fear and respect. High Priest, I remember that the previous Sorcerer Song Conference was hosted by the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master. Why isn't the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master here this time? The Moon Wolf Tribe's Patriarch, Itaiha, voiced his doubts. The tribe leaders of the other tribes had the same doubts. Although the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe did not usually manage the affairs of the tribe and was a typical hands-off boss. However, for an important event like the Sorcerer Song Gathering, the Holy Master would usually make an appearance to show his presence. However, in this Sorcerer Song Gathering, the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe did not make an appearance, which naturally made the other tribe leaders very puzzled. This was especially so for Feng Lilua and the other tribe leaders who had gone to the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe for a drink. They felt that something was amiss. Wu Wuxian's eyes flickered and revealed a trace of unnaturalness. However, he quickly concealed it. The main thing is that a very important guest came to the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall today. The Holy Master had to personally entertain him, so he did not have time to preside over the Sorcerer Song gathering. Wu Wuxian said calmly, "A very important guest? In the entire Eldritch Heavenly Realm, there is no guest who can make the Holy Master so cautious. Even if there is, it must be an old monster who has not appeared in the world for a long time. This kind of person rarely appears in the world. Why would he look for the Holy Master at this juncture?" Feng Lilua asked in surprise. "This guest is not ordinary. Let's not make wild guesses. Now, let's get down to business and preside over the Sorcerer Song gathering," Wu Wuxian said solemnly. When the tribe leaders saw Wu Wuxian's fearful expression, they were all shocked. In the Eldritch Heavenly Realm, there were very few people who could make Wu Wuxian fearful. It was obvious that the guest that Wu Wuxian was talking about was not a simple person. Wu Wuxian walked to the front of the square and looked around at the foreign tribe members. He said loudly, "I am Wu Wuxian, the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe. Welcome to the Sorcerer Song gathering organized by the Sorcerer Tribe. The rules of this Sorcerer Song gathering are the same as the previous years. There are 3 stages, but the situation is completely different. As all of you know, there are only 12 people who can enter the Ancestral Sorcerer's magical pond. The 3 stages are actually very simple. In the first stage, 500 contestants will be selected. In the second stage, the top 100 contestants will be selected. In the third stage, the top 100 contestants will be selected. Now, I will announce the selection method for the first stage." When Wu Wuxian said this, he deliberately paused. Many of the foreign tribe members in the square held their breaths, waiting for Wu Wuxian to continue. All of you should have seen the stone pillars standing in the middle of the square, right? In the square, there are a total of 500 stone pillars. In each stone pillar, there is a small world. You can choose the stone pillar that you want to enter. Then, you can fight in the small world inside the stone pillar. In the end, the first person who can walk out of the small world inside the stone pillar will obtain a spot in the top 500. Chapter 33-29. Inside the stone pillar world. I'm sure all of you know the rules of the first stage. From now on, you can choose the stone pillar you want to enter. The way to enter is very simple. All you have to do is place your entry token on the surface of the stone pillar and your aura will be sensed by the stone pillar. At that time, you will enter the small world of the stone pillar. Wu Wuxian said calmly. As soon as Wu Wuxian said this, a commotion broke out among the outsiders in the square. They all looked at the stone pillars around them, obviously choosing which small world to enter. Now let's begin. You only have 15 minutes. If you still haven't made your choice after 15 minutes, you will be considered to have forfeited. Wu Wuxian added. After hearing this, the foreign races who were still sizing up the stone pillars could no longer remain calm and made their choices. One after another, the foreign races entered the stone pillars they had chosen. Before entering the stone pillars, some of the foreign races couldn't help but look at the geniuses of the 10 great races at the front of the square. They wanted to see which stone pillars the geniuses of the 10 great races had chosen. Then, they could avoid choosing the corresponding stone pillars to avoid encountering the geniuses of the 10 great races. After all, the strength of the geniuses of the 10 great races was widely acknowledged. Even if some of them were geniuses of the 10 great races, they would still be weaker than the geniuses of the 10 great races. In any case, in the first stage, they would try their best to avoid encountering the geniuses of the 10 great races. However, to their disappointment, the geniuses of the 10 great races still stood at the front of the square, unmoving. Obviously, the geniuses of the 10 great races were planning to leave their stone pillars for last. Zhuowen watched as more and more aliens entered the stone pillars. He greeted Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and walked in the opposite direction of Crepe Myrtle Star. Naturally, he couldn't choose the same stone pillar as the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. After all, there could only be one winner in each stone pillar. If he and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign chose the same stone pillar, wouldn't one of them be eliminated? At the same time, Juan didn't want to face the geniuses of the 10 great races so early. Therefore, he chose a stone pillar in a very remote location. In front of the square, among the corpse ghost clan's troops, Shifu stared at the stone pillar that Juan had entered with a mocking smile on his face. Shifu, do you know that young man from a small clan? Corpse Marsh had long noticed that Shifu's gaze had been fixed on Juan. He couldn't help but ask curiously. I've met him once. He's a rather stubborn ant. The day before yesterday at the trade fair, this ant refused my deal and even threatened me. Shifu said sinisterly. How bold of you! You even dare to provoke our corpse ghoul clan. However, he is destined to be an ant. There is no need for you to make a move. Corpse you, go into that stone pillar and properly entertain that ant that provoked Corpse Pup. Corpse Marsh said without much care. A young man who was also as thin as a match walked out from the Corpse Ghoul clan's team. This young man was slightly shorter than the Corpse Pups. His face was ferocious and terrifying, and the stench of corpses from his body was very strong. Shiryu's aura was also very powerful, but compared to Shifu, it was much weaker. His cultivation base was only half a step away from heaven ascension. Even so, Shiryu's reputation was extremely great. Even though Shiryu's cultivation base wasn't high and was only half a step away from heaven ascension, he was a genius amongst the younger generation of the Corpse Ghoul clan that was only inferior to Shifu. Moreover, his methods of attack were extremely strange. Supposedly, Shiryu had forcefully resisted an initial stage heaven ascension lord with his cultivation base all those years ago, and he'd even injured that initial stage heaven ascension lord. Even though Shiryu had paid an extremely great price at that time, this battle had shaken the entire primitive heaven domain. Many clans had found out that besides Shifu, the Corpse Ghoul clan had such a formidable member of the younger generation, Shiryu, because of this battle. Shiryu, don't let that ant die too easily. Your attainments in torturing others are much greater than mine. Shifu spoke indifferently. Shiryu laughed strangely and said, Patriarch, senior brother Shifu, don't worry. Shiryu won't disappoint you. I'll definitely utilize everything I've learned in my lifetime and make that ant experience a fate worse than death. After he finished speaking, Shiryu directly flashed toward Zhuowen's stone pillar and quickly entered it. The number of foreign clans in the square quickly thinned out. Most of them had already entered the stone pillars that they'd chosen. At this moment, the geniuses of the top 10 clans, who hadn't made any moves before, also moved. They all very tacitly chose their own stone pillars. After all, the Sorcerer Song gathering had just begun, and they didn't want to meet each other so soon. After all, anyone who went up against each other would have the risk of being eliminated. The moment Juan opened his eyes, he gathered all the energy in his body and circulated it around him. His divine consciousness also surged out like a tide to guard against any sudden danger. At this moment, Juan finally had a clear view of his surroundings. He saw that in this world, the ground was like black iron, and it had a metallic luster. Meanwhile, the sky was filled with dense black iron chains that crisscrossed one after another. These black iron chains were like the largest chains in the world, and they locked this world up. Juan had a feeling that being in this world was like being imprisoned in an extremely huge prison. The place where he was standing was a mountain peak, and he was standing on the peak. Suddenly, the entry token on his waist began to flash, and the frequency of the flashes became faster and faster. When the frequency of the flashes reached its peak, several air-piercing sounds could be heard from behind the mountain peak, and they all blasted toward Zhuowen's back. They were 3 foreign clans. Judging from their auras, they should be from the same clan. Consider yourself unlucky to have encountered the 3 of us. Just I. One of the foreign clans laughed complacently. Unfortunately, just as he finished speaking, Zhuowen attacked. Zhuowen quickly threw out 3 punches, and each punch was like a mountain falling from the sky, filled with a terrifying feeling of heaviness. Before the smiles on the 3 foreign clans' faces faded, they were hit by the 3 punches. They didn't even have time to scream before they were blasted into a bloody mist. After killing the 3 foreign clans in an instant, Zhuowen jumped down the mountain peak and disappeared from the mountain range like a bolt of black lightning. The mountain peak was too high and he stood on top of it. Therefore, he had to find a place to clear up the situation first. As for the 3 foreign clans who were killed by Zhuowen in an instant, they were teleported out of the stone pillar the moment they were killed. They looked at the stone pillar in front of them in a daze. They knew that they had been eliminated. However, they couldn't accept that they had just entered not long ago, and they hadn't even seen the world inside the stone pillar clearly, and they were already eliminated. This was too unfair. Chapter 33:30. Wu Wuxian's concern. Zhuowen stopped in the middle of a metal forest. The trees in this forest seemed to be made of metal, emitting a rather bright luster. Zhuowen stopped in a huge tree trunk, completely concealing his aura. On his way to this metal forest, he encountered several attacks from foreign races. Every time the outsiders launched a surprise attack, the medallion hanging from his waist would flash with blinding light. Zhuowen knew that when 2 parties with entry tokens approached a certain distance, they would be sensed. This was a warning of danger, and at the same time, a sign that he would be exposed. Zhuowen did not know how many foreign races there were in this stone pillar world, but he knew that it was definitely not more than 3 digits. Moreover, along the way, he also discovered that the area of the stone pillar world was not large. If he wanted to search this world, he should be able to search the entire world in 3 days. Because Yuan had entered the stone pillar world earlier, he did not know whether the geniuses of the 10 great races had chosen the same stone pillar as him. Even if the geniuses of the other 10 great races did not choose this stone pillar, the Shifu of the corpse ghost race had some grudges with him, and it was very likely that he would choose this stone pillar. However, Yuan was not afraid. Entering this world was a rare opportunity for him to breathe. He didn't want to waste his time hunting other foreign races. He planned to use this time to completely condense his soul sword intent. Because he knew that instead of wasting time looking for other foreign races, it was better to wait for the last foreign race to come to him after the battle. This would save him a lot of trouble. This metal forest was considered the edge of this world, and it was also an extremely remote place. He knew that it was very difficult for ordinary foreign races to break into this place. Unless they searched every corner of this world, they would not notice this metal forest. In the metal forest, Yuan chose the thickest metal tree, made a large hole in the trunk, and set up a simple cave dwelling. Then, he set up a powerful shielding formation outside the cave abode and set up a surveillance formation several miles around the cave abode. Once someone entered within a radius of a few miles, the monitoring array formation would be activated. At that time, Yuan would know in advance. After doing all this, Yuan entered the cave with peace of mind and began to concentrate on condensing the Divine Soul Sword intent. This Divine Soul Sword intent was one of his major killing moves. He had to condense as many of them as possible. This would be of great benefit to him when he competed for a spot later on. On the metal wasteland hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the metal jungle, Yu was walking slowly. His entire body was shrouded in a dense gray corpse aura. Both of Corpse Yu's hands were grabbing onto an alien race member and dragging them on the ground. However, the 2 outsiders weren't dead. Instead, they were in a half-dead state. Their heads were bleeding, and when they were dragged on the ground by the corpse youths, they left long bloody marks on the ground as they screamed in agony. "Corpse you, kill us quickly. Hurry up and kill us. It's too painful." One of the outsiders screamed. His eyes were bloodshot, and he wanted nothing more than to die. "Kill you? That's too easy for you. If you really die after I kill you, I don't mind killing you. However, if you don't really die, then it's meaningless. I'd rather let you enjoy a period of pain." Yu said with a hideous smile. "You'll die a horrible death. You Corpse School Clan are all perverts. A bunch of people who are neither human nor ghost." The alien race member on Yu's right said with a venomous gaze. Yu stopped and swung his right hand. The alien race member on his right was thrown to the ground. The alien race member was in so much pain that he groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked extremely miserable. "You should be from the Mole Clan. How dare you insult our Corpse School Clan? Do you know the price you have to pay for insulting the Corpse School Clan?" Yu said in a low voice. The alien race member didn't speak anymore. His entire body was invaded by the corpse aura. He was in so much pain that even speaking took a lot of effort. I've decided to grant you death. However, the Mole clan doesn't need to exist anymore. After this Sorcerer Song conference, your Mole clan will be wiped out. The reason for your clan's extermination is you, a traitor. After Shiryu finished speaking, he clenched his right hand. The alien race member screamed in agony as his body started to fester. No, Lord Shiryu, I was wrong. Please don't attack my clan. It's all my fault. If you want to kill me, then kill me. After this, I'll come to you and beg for forgiveness. The alien race member begged Shiryu as he screamed in agony. Unfortunately, Corpse Yu merely sneered as he watched this alien being completely fester into dregs. The alien race member on his left was terrified. He didn't dare to say a word. Trouble came from the mouth. It was a small matter if he was killed, but if he was implicated in the clan behind him, then he would be a sinner. I don't want to play anymore. You can go to hell too. Shiryu's gaze was cold. He clenched his right hand, and the alien race member on his left also festered and died. This world isn't big. I didn't see Long One on my way here. It seems like he hid the moment he came in. However, I'm not in a hurry. I'll search slowly. After I find Long One, I'll make him suffer more than death. Shiryu laughed coldly. He had heard about Zhuowen's fake name from Shifu. Back then, Zhuowen had contradicted Shifu. Naturally, Shifu had investigated Zhuowen and found out about Zhuowen's fake name. Only half a day had passed. Beside the most conspicuous stone pillar in the square, alien race members were constantly being sent out. When the last alien race member was sent out, the stone pillar shattered. A slender figure walked out slowly from the shattered stone pillar like a king returning. The Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian, who was standing at the front of the square, looked satisfied when he saw the figure. The figure was the most powerful genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. At that moment, Wu Xingyuan's gaze was emotionless. He walked out slowly like a god who had returned victorious from hell. No wonder he's the most powerful genius of the sorcerer tribe. This Wu Xingyuan is terrifyingly powerful. In just half a day, he eliminated everyone and obtained a spot in the top 500. In front of the square, the leaders of the other 9 tribes looked at Wu Xingyuan in shock. They had thought that the contestants who entered the competition would take at least a day. They had not expected Wu Xingyuan to come out in half a day. This speed was too fast. Congratulations, Grand Priest. Wu Xingyuan's future is limitless. I'm afraid he can lead the sorcerer tribe to the peak of prosperity. The surrounding leaders also congratulated the Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian. Their eyes were filled with envy. Wu Wuxian was also very satisfied. It was rare for the sorcerer tribe to produce a genius like Wu Xingyuan. In his opinion, Wu Wuxian was the most promising genius to surpass the sorcerer tribe's holy leader. He was the best candidate for the position. However, Wu Wuxian thought of the mysterious guest that the sorcerer tribe's holy leader was receiving. He could not help but frown. The mysterious guest was very powerful. It was said that even the sorcerer tribe's holy leader was defeated by him with one slap. The sorcerer tribe's holy leader was subdued. Before Wu Wuxian walked out of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, the sorcerer tribe's holy leader had sent a message to him. The mysterious guest was most likely a terrifying expert who was at least at the 4th decay of Heaven's Blight. The entire sorcerer tribe was no match for this mysterious guest. Chapter 33-31. Come out. After Wu Xingyuan walked out of the stone pillar, he slowly walked to Wu Wuxian's side. His eyes were emotionless, like an ancient well. Obviously, Wu Xingyuan was not surprised that he was the first to come out. Before his breakthrough, among the younger generation of the Eldritch Heavenly Domain, there were indeed a few who could compete with him and make him feel difficult to deal with. However, after his breakthrough, his horizons had broadened too much. The few geniuses that he felt were difficult to deal with in the past were nothing in his eyes. As long as he wanted to, he could defeat them with a flip of his hand. In this Sorcerer Song gathering, it was an expected fact that he was first. No one could shake it. Another half a day passed, and another stone pillar shattered. Waves of black gas spread out from the broken pieces. A figure as thin as a matchstick and full of a strange dark aura slowly walked out. It's Sherpu from the Corpse School clan. Brother Inma, your Corpse School clan has really cultivated a good junior. The fact that Sherpu is the second to come out proves that his strength is definitely one of the best among this group of geniuses. Many patriarchs looked at the second Sherpu in amazement and could not help but discuss spiritedly. Sher Inma looked at the approaching Sherpu and listened to the compliments of the other patriarchs. The corners of his mouth curled into a condescending smile. Sher Inma's attitude made the patriarchs of the other 10 major clans a little unhappy. They also knew that the patriarchs of the other major clans saw the potential in Sherpu and came to curry favor with him. However, as competitors, they were naturally in a bad mood when they saw the other patriarchs fawning over Sher Inma. Sherpu saw Wu Xingyuan, who was already standing beside Wu Wuxian, at a glance, and his face suddenly turned ugly. As soon as he entered the stone pillar world, he immediately released his divine sense and began to kill in all directions. He wanted to get rid of all his opponents in the stone pillar world as quickly as possible. His speed was indeed very fast, and he didn't stop killing. It only took him a day to search through the entire world of stone pillars and kill all the opponents hiding inside. He thought that he should be the first to come out of the stone pillar world after spending a day. But he didn't expect Wu Xingyuan to be faster than him. This made Sherfu feel very unbalanced. At the same time, 2 more pillars exploded and 2 more figures walked out from within. Itaiha, the patriarch of the Moon Wolf clan and the patriarch of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, couldn't help but smile when they saw the 2 figures. The 2 figures were none other than the genius of the Moon Wolf tribe, Tu Qian, and the genius of the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe, Wu Qiutong. Sherfu walked to Corpse In Marsh's side and asked solemnly, "Patriarch, when did Wu Xingyuan come out?" "Half a day earlier than you." Sher In Marsh glanced at Sherfu and said indifferently. Sherfu was silent. He was not convinced. Wu Xingyuan was half a day faster than him. How did he do it? Did Wu Xingyuan cheat? Sherfu, this Wu Xingyuan is not simple. You'd better not be impulsive and challenge Wu Xingyuan in this Sorcerer Song gathering. After all, there were 12 spots. If you lose a spot because you challenged Wu Xingyuan, I will make you live a life worse than death, Corpse In Marsh said coldly. Sherfu couldn't help but tremble when he heard this. He knew very well how ruthless the patriarch next to him was. He was definitely the kind of guy who would do what he said and was especially ruthless. Thinking of Corpse In Marsh's series of terrifying means, Sherfu quickly extinguished the idea of challenging Wu Xingyuan. "Patriarch, don't worry. Sherfu will definitely prioritize the interests of the Corpse clan. I won't act recklessly," Sherfu said solemnly. Corpse In Marsh nodded with satisfaction and said, "Yes. As long as you perform well enough, I will naturally reward you. Moreover, the baptism of the power of the Ancestral Sorcerer in the Ancestral Sorcerer Magical Pond is also very beneficial to you. You can't miss such a rare opportunity." Sherfu nodded and assured Corpse In Marsh again. Only then did Corpse In Marsh feel completely relieved. Tu Qian and Wu Qiutong also returned to their respective teams. Another 2 to 4 hours passed. The geniuses of the 10 major clans also rushed out of their respective pillars one after another. Among them, Feng Bumming of the Phoenix People was the 9th contestant to come out of the stone pillar. Although his ranking was relatively low, Feng Lilua was still quite satisfied with Feng Bumming's performance. She did not have high expectations for Feng Bumming. As long as Feng Bumming could obtain a place, that would be enough. At the same time that Feng Bumming walked out of the stone pillar, another stone pillar cracked open. Many patriarchs present thought that the person who came out should also be a genius of the 10 major clans. However, when they saw who it was, they were all stunned. This was because the person who came out was not any genius of the 10 major clans. He did not even belong to those geniuses of the major clans. He was actually a genius of a minor clan. This minor clan genius was a female foreign clan member who wore a black tights and a black veil on her face. She was Jingshan, who had previously cooperated with Jun. After Jingshan came out, she only glanced at the somewhat dumbfounded patriarchs of the major clans before she walked to the side and waited. The 9 geniuses of the 10 major clans who had come out, including Wu Xingyuan, all looked at Jingshan at the same time. Their eyes were also full of doubts. In their impression, it was already a miracle for a minor clan genius to be able to last until the end in the Stone Pillar world, let alone come out so early. However, the female foreign clan member in front of them did it, and she was the 10th person to come out. This ant from the minor clan is quite lucky. The opponents in the Stone Pillar that she is in are probably ants similar to her. They are just slightly stronger ants. Shipu was very arrogant. He simply looked down on Jingshan. In other words, in his eyes, none of the geniuses from the minor clans were experts. All of them were trash. Wu Xingyuan looked at Jingshan from top to bottom. He did not seem to notice any clues and frowned slightly. However, he soon ignored it and closed his eyes to rest. Jingshan did not cause a big commotion. After all, there were not many strong opponents in the Stone Pillar that she was in. After Jingshan came out, her gaze fell on the Stone Pillar that Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star had entered. Seeing that the two of them had not come out, she frowned slightly. With her divine instinct, she could feel that Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star were not simple. They were a great threat to her. Originally, she had deliberately slowed down in the Stone Pillar world, thinking that Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star would come out before her. However, she did not expect that she would be the first to come out. These two fellows are really patient. Jingshan muttered to herself. In the following period of time, more and more geniuses came out of the Stone Pillars. There were even more geniuses who were eliminated. Most of the geniuses who were eliminated were taken away by their respective clan leaders and left the square. That was the rule of the sorcerer tribe. The losers could not continue to stay in the square. Crepe Myrtle Star also came out of the Stone Pillar world smoothly. Naturally, he had advanced. However, when Crepe Myrtle Star entered the Stone Pillar world, he remembered Zhuan's words. He had to keep a low profile and not be too high profile in order to avoid being exposed. Therefore, Crepe Myrtle Star's battle in the Stone Pillar world dragged on for a long time before he finished off all his opponents and came out. Crepe Myrtle Star looked around and found that Zhuan had not come out yet. However, he did not approach Jingshan when he saw her. Instead, he stood in a corner casually. Crepe Myrtle Star's appearance attracted the attention of many geniuses from the major clans. They could tell that Crepe Myrtle Star was from a minor clan. He had also advanced successfully. However, Crepe Myrtle Star did not attract much attention. Many geniuses from other clans subconsciously thought that Crepe Myrtle Star was lucky to be able to advance in the first stage. Chapter 33-32. Shiyu. As time passed, more and more geniuses from the large clans emerged from their respective stone pillars. There were only a few stone pillars left. In the Corp School Clan's team, Corpse Marsh frowned slightly and said in a low voice with slight displeasure, "Why is Shiyu so slow? It's been more than 3 days and he still hasn't come out." Shipu's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "Patriarch, don't be anxious. I think that ant called Longwen must have hidden himself in an extremely secluded place as soon as he entered the world of stone pillars. You also know that junior brother Shiyu is not good at movement techniques. According to my estimation, with junior brother Shiryu's speed, it would take him at least 3 days to search the entire world of stone pillars. Now that 3 days have passed, I think junior brother Shiryu should be out soon." Corpse Marsh nodded. Like Shipu, he never doubted that Shiryu would fail in the first round. According to Corpse Marsh's estimation, Shiryu had a high chance of competing for the top 12 spots. Although the probability was not high, there was still some hope. In the world of stone pillars, in a temporary cave abode built from tree trunks in the metal forest, Zhuan slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with excitement. In these 3 days, he had been condensing the soul sword essence in his divine soul every moment. Finally, he had successfully condensed the soul sword essence, which was originally just a sword embryo, into a piercingly sharp sword. In other words, the true complete form of the soul sword essence had been completely formed. The power of this soul sword essence was extremely terrifying. Although he had not tested it yet, with the current power of his divine soul, the soul sword essence he condensed was enough to instantly kill an early-stage Tong Tian master and severely injure an intermediate-stage Tong Tian master. Moreover, Duan saw the limitless possibilities of the soul sword essence. As long as his divine soul was tempered more and more, the soul sword essence he could condense would also become more and more terrifying. In the future, it would not be a problem for him to instantly kill an advanced stage Tong Tian master. Just as Zhuan was immersed in the endless reverie of the future, he discovered that the surveillance formation he had set up several miles away had been activated. Zhuan collected his thoughts and waved his sleeve. Instantly, an image appeared in the air in front of him. In this image, Shi Yu was in the middle of a metal forest. More than 10 alien corpses floated around Shi Yu, and black smoke surged like waves. Zhuan knew that the dozen or so corpses were not real. They were just substitutes created by the stone pillar world. However, Zhuan was somewhat disgusted. This corpse Yu clearly had the habit of treating the corpses of its enemies as spoils of war. You've killed someone, yet you don't want to let go of his corpse. That's too much. Zhuan knew that if the corpse Yu had found this metal forest, it was likely that all the foreign tribes in the stone pillar world had been wiped out by him. Thinking of this, Zhuan retracted the great array around the cave dwelling and stepped out. In the dense forest a few miles away from Zhuan's temporary cave abode, Shi Yu's eyes were filled with frustration. He had almost searched the entire stone pillar world and killed all the other foreign tribes, but he still couldn't find Longwen. Longwen, this is the last place in the stone pillar world. I don't believe that I can't find you here. When I find you, I'll torture you slowly until you kneel in front of me and beg for death. Shi Yu roared furiously. You want me to kneel in front of you and beg for death? I'm afraid it's a little difficult. However, it's possible for you to kneel in front of me and beg for death. Suddenly, a mocking voice was heard, and Shi Yu couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Shi Yu looked at the young man in front of him and was stunned at first. Then he laughed out loud, and his laughter became more and more arrogant. He said, "So you're here. You coward, you've been hiding for so long. You're finally willing to come out? You've killed everyone else?" What surprised Shi Yu was that not only did Zhuan not show any signs of fear, he even asked Shi Yu about the massacre in a serious manner. Of course, you're the finale. However, since you've been hiding for so long, I won't let you die so easily. I'll torture you slowly. Yes, I'll break your arms and legs first, then dig out your eyes, deafen your ears, and peel off your skin. Shi Yu had only spoken halfway when his chest was struck by an enormous force, and then he was blasted flying and smashed heavily onto the ground. At the instant he hadn't reacted, Zhuan's right foot stomped heavily on his chest, and a powerful force blasted onto his body, causing Shi Yu to be unable to get up at all and could only struggle passively. How are you so strong? Shi Yu was in disbelief. Zhuan completely ignored him and said indifferently, You said earlier that you'll break my limbs, seize my senses, and peel off my skin? Alright, I'll try all of that on you. What do you think? Shi Yu was stunned, and then he felt excruciating pain. He shrieked, and his limbs were already broken without him knowing, and blood was gushing out. However, Shi Yu's shrieks stopped abruptly, and his senses were also seized by Zhuan at that instant. Zhuan looked at Shi Yu, who was in a daze, but he didn't peel off his skin. Shi Yu's entire body was shriveled like a mummy, and his body was full of maggots. Looking at him was disgusting, and he was really not interested in doing such a thing. Moreover, with his temperament, he wouldn't do something as cruel as skinning someone. Thinking of this, Zhuan pointed his right sword finger in between Shi Yu's eyebrows. Shi Yu's soul was shattered, and he couldn't be more dead. The moment Shi Yu was killed, the entire stone pillar world began to shake violently. Then the space of the stone pillar world began to collapse, and the dense black chains that bound the sky even broke apart. A pushing force acted on Zhuan's body, and Zhuan was pushed out involuntarily. When Zhuan's feet landed on the ground, he realized that he was already in the square of the guarded ground, and in front of him was the majestic hall of the sorcerer tribe. Behind him was the stone pillar. However, this stone pillar had already been shattered into pieces. What? Who is this person? He came out last, And Shiryu was actually eliminated? That's impossible. We were all killed by Shiryu. This guy doesn't seem strong, and I don't know him either. He should be from a small tribe, right? He got the last slot? The moment Zhuan appeared, there were more than 10 foreign tribes standing around him. Zhuan recognized these foreign tribes as well. They were the other foreign tribes that he entered from the stone pillar, including Shiryu. Chapter 33-33. Change of mind. Patriarch, Shiryu has come out. He should have advanced. At the front of the square, Shirpu's gaze descended onto the stone pillar Shiryu was on. At this moment, Shiryu had already been transported out. However, Shiryu was slightly dazed and stood on the spot in a daze. Shirpu didn't notice Shiryu's abnormality as his gaze was filled with confidence. Shir-Inma nodded as his gaze descended onto the stone pillar behind Shiryu. He noticed that the stone pillar actually didn't shatter, and he couldn't help but frown as he had a trace of a bad premonition in his heart. Rumble. At the instant Shir-Inma frowned, the stone pillar behind Shiryu shattered. A figure slowly walked out from the shattered stone pillar. It's that long one? He won. Shir-Inma was stunned. Patriarch, you're thinking too much. That long one is merely an ant. The difference between him and junior brother Shiryu is like the difference between the clouds and mud. Ha! Shirpu laughed confidently as his gaze descended onto the stone pillar Shiryu was on. However, when Shirpu saw Zhuan walk out from the shattered stone pillar, he couldn't help but be stunned. The remaining words seemed to have been choked off, and he couldn't speak anymore. Because he saw Zhuan walk out from the shattered stone pillar as well. He was clearly aware of what this represented. It represented that the final victory belonged to Zhuan. This fellow, how is this possible? Did he play a dirty trick inside? Shirpu's gaze was gloomy as he spoke. Shir-Inma was filled with depression as well. He truly couldn't figure out why Shiryu would actually lose to a young man from a small clan. Could it be an accident? Shirpu, go over and ask. Shir-Inma said coldly. Shirpu nodded and then walked toward Zhuan and Shiryu. Shirpu's actions immediately drew the attention of many geniuses from the other large clans on the square. As a genius from the corpse clan of the 10 great clans, Shirpu's strength was extremely formidable. Back then, Shirpu had once fought with Wu Xingyuan who hadn't broken through. No one knew the outcome, but Shirpu was heavily injured, and Wu Xingyuan was injured as well. Although Wu Xingyuan's injuries weren't as severe as Shirpu's, this also proved that Shirpu's strength wasn't weak. The Shirfu's actions also attracted the attention of Wu Xingyuan, Wu Qiutong, and the other geniuses of the 10 great clans. Wu Xingyuan followed the direction of the corpse pup and saw Zhuan. He was astonished. He recognized Zhuan because he was the one who had traded the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill to him at the trade fair. The Supreme Harmony Spiritual Chi Pill was a mid-ascension realm divine pill. Its main function was to help early-stage Ascension Realm cultivators break through to the mid-Ascension Realm, and also to strengthen their foundation. It was all thanks to Zhuan's Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill that Wu Xingyuan was able to thoroughly consolidate the realm that he had just advanced. When he saw the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill, he was so excited that he forgot to ask for Zhuan's name. By the time he consolidated his cultivation base, the Sorcerer Song Conference had already begun, so he had no time to look for Zhuan. He did not expect to see Zhuan here. At the same time, Wu Xingyuan was also curious as to why this young man, who was obviously from a small clan, would have such a precious divine pill like the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill. The foreign clans who were originally surrounding Zhuan were shocked when they saw the corpse pup walking over and hurriedly made way. The corpse pup strode over and came to Shiryu's side. At this moment, Shiryu saw the corpse pup coming over and hurriedly bowed. He lowered his head and did not dare to look at the corpse pup. "Senior brother, I've let you and the patriarch down," Shiryu said in shame. The corpse pup glanced at Shiryu coldly and said, "I'll deal with you later." After saying that, the corpse pup looked at Zhuan with murderous eyes and said, "Long one, you're just a disciple from a small clan. How could you possibly have the strength to defeat the disciples from other large clans and obtain this slot? You must have cheated in this stone pillar world, right? Tell me the truth, and perhaps I'll spare your worthless life." Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. This corpse pup actually had the intention to kill him. This was the guarded ground. This corpse pup was so fearless and actually threatened to kill him. It was truly too arrogant. The first stage of the test was set by the witch race. If you say that I cheated, aren't you saying that there's a problem with the arrangement of the witch race in the witch song conference? You're looking down on the witch race, right? Zhuowen said coldly. The corpse pup raised his brows but suddenly cupped his hands at Wu Wuxian in front of the square and said, "Honorable High Priest of the witch race, I have no intention of offending the witch race. It's just that this ant comes from a small clan and has no background. It's really strange that he could obtain a slot for the first stage. Furthermore, although this child comes from a small clan, he has many tricks up his sleeve. At the trade fair the day before the witch song conference, this child once took out a Heaven Ascension divine pill to exchange for a blazing phoenix exquisite leaf. An ant that can take out a Heaven Ascension divine pill, although his strength is not strong, his methods are definitely unique. I didn't wrong this ant." The moment the corpse pup said that, many foreign clans were in an uproar. This young man from a small clan could actually take out a Heaven Ascension divine pill. How rich was this guy? One had to know that even the top geniuses of the 10 great clans generally might not be able to take out this kind of divine pill. Back then, the reason why Wu Qiutong could take out a Heaven Ascension divine pill was also obtained by a fortuitous encounter. Furthermore, there was only that one. And the divine pill that Zhuowen took out was even a middle-stage Heaven Ascension divine pill. It was of a higher grade than the divine pill that Wu Qiutong took out. Anyone knew that a guy who could give out such a precious divine pill definitely had a lot of good stuff on him. Even the patriarchs of the 10 great clans also revealed looks of surprise. They also did not think that a mere young man from a small clan could actually take out a Heaven Ascension divine pill. Zhuowen's face darkened. He looked at Sher Pup coldly, killing intent already rising in his heart. This corpse pup did it on purpose. This way, he would probably become the target of public criticism. After all, he was not a genius of the 10 great clans and did not have a powerful faction backing him up. There would probably be quite a number of clans eyeing him covetously. I beg the High Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe to let Long Wen and Shi Yu fight again. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this boy will definitely not play any more tricks. Shi Pup cupped his fists and said. Shi Yu's face suddenly changed. He was just about to remind Shi Pup that he was indeed no match for Zhuowen when he was interrupted by Shi Pup. Shi Pup did not care about Shi Yu's ugly expression at all. In his opinion, Zhuowen definitely did not defeat Shi Yu with his true ability. As soon as Shi Pup said that, many of the foreign clans around nodded. They also felt that Zhuowen's victory was too strange. After all, there was a genius from the Corpse Ghost clan like Shi Yu in the Stone Pillar world that he was in. He was a top genius in the Corpse Ghost clan that was second only to Shi Pup and was very powerful. High Priest, actually, I am also somewhat unconvinced. I believe in Shi Yu's strength and hope that you can give Shi Yu a chance. Shi Yinma also spoke up. Wu Wuxian glanced at Shi Yinma and nodded. In that case, give Shi Yu another chance. The two of you will have a showdown in this square. In the Moon Wolf clan's team, Qian Ping stood beside Tu Qian. She also saw Zhuowen and recognized that Zhuowen was that country bumpkin she met at the Sorcerer God City's city gates back then. This country bumpkin's luck is pretty good, to actually be able to obtain the qualifications to enter the inner city. Furthermore, he even used some unknown method to obtain the quota for the first stage. But his luck has also come to an end. Fighting with Shi Yu openly, this country bumpkin is dead for sure. Qian Ping said with a cold smile. Chapter 33-34. Insta-killing Shi Yu. When Wu Wuxian agreed to Zhuowen and Shi Yu to battle again, practically all the foreign races in the plaza thought that this Zhuowen was dead for sure. Wu Xingyuan stood beside Wu Wuxian and watched the scene with his brows furrowed slightly. Speaking of which, he was still quite grateful to Zhuowen for the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill. If it wasn't for this divine pill, he wouldn't have been able to completely consolidate his cultivation in just a short day. If Wu Wuxian did not speak, he would definitely step forward to interfere. Unfortunately, Wu Wuxian personally promised this battle. If he interfered, it would undoubtedly be slapping Wu Wuxian's face. If this Long Wen can't beat Shiryu, I can make a move to help. At least, I can save his life. Wu Xingyuan thought in his heart. He was someone who did not like to owe others favors. Although he and Zhuowen had a normal transaction, he knew that the value of the Grand Peace Spirit Energy Pill that Zhuowen took out was much more precious than the exquisite Blaze Phoenix Leaf. Speaking of which, it was him who took a huge advantage. Of course, if Wu Xingyuan knew how important the exquisite Blaze Phoenix Leaf was to Zhuowen, he would not feel that he took advantage of it. Wu Xingyuan precisely had this mentality, so he subconsciously thought that he took advantage of Zhuowen and felt that he owed Zhuowen a favor. At this moment, a large group of foreign races gathered near the stone pillar that Jun was at to watch the show. And Shifu's eyes were filled with cruelty. In his view, this Long Wen would lose without a doubt in the battle with Shiryu. Moreover, he was dead for sure. Since the High Priest has already agreed, then the two of you can battle again. The battlefield is here. Shifu pointed to a rather spacious open space in front and said to Zhuowen and Shiryu. Zhuowen glanced at Shifu coldly and took a step, very straightforwardly arriving at the open space. Rather, it was that Shiryu who was cowering, his eyes full of hesitation. He had fought with Zhuowen in the Stone Pillar world and was defeated in one move. He knew that he was no match for Zhuowen. But now, he didn't dare to not fight because this opportunity was won by Shifu and Corpse in Marsh. If he chickened out, he would be dead for sure, and he would die very miserably. After all, Corpse Pups were known for their cruelty in the Ghoul clan. Although Long Wen is strong, it's still impossible for him to kill me in an instant. As long as I can't defeat him, I'll immediately withdraw from the battle and surrender. At that time, senior brother Shifu will definitely find an excuse to stop Long Wen. At that time, I won't have to die. Senior martial brother Shifu and Patriarch also know that I did my best, so they won't do anything to me. As Shiryu thought to himself, he walked to the opposite side of Zhuowen and faced Zhuowen from afar. Shifu crossed his arms in front of his chest. His mouth was filled with a sinister grin as he imagined the scene of Zhuowen being torn apart by Shiryu. Let's begin. Junior martial brother Shiryu, don't go easy on him. Let this ant experience the strength of our Ghoul clan and let him know that playing dirty will never work before absolute strength, Shifu said to Shiryu. Shiryu forced a smile. He didn't dare tell Shifu about Zhuowen now. After all, if he spoke now, it would be slapping Shifu's face. It was obviously much better to speak after Shiryu was defeated. Shiryu, are you sure you want to fight me? It's not like you haven't seen my strength in the Stone Pillar world. Zhuowen stood opposite Shiryu and ridiculed. Shiryu's expression was unsightly as he said coldly, "You were completely lucky in the Stone Pillar world. I underestimated you too much." Shiryu could only answer unyieldingly. Otherwise, wouldn't he be embarrassing the Ghoul clan in front of Shifu and Corpse Pups? Alright, I'll only use one move. If you're able to receive this move of mine, then it'll be my loss. Zhuowen said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding crowd burst into an uproar. Wasn't this Long Wen too arrogant? Facing the genius of the Ghoul clan, Shiryu, he actually threatened that he would only use one move. Was he looking down on Shiryu? Shifu's expression was also somewhat unsightly. He felt insulted. This Long Wen was really reckless to actually say such bold words. This Long Wen's strength isn't much, but his ability to boast is top-notch. In the Moonwolf clan's group, Qian Ping sneered repeatedly. Tu Qian, who stood beside Qian Ping, simply closed his eyes. He didn't even want to look at a clown like Zhuowen right now. Alright, remember what you said. Originally, everyone thought that Shiryu would speak ruthlessly, but they didn't expect that Shiryu actually compromised, causing everyone to be somewhat speechless. Shiryu didn't care about what the crowd thought, but he was secretly delighted. He clearly knew that Zhuowen's strength was stronger than his, but he was still very confident in himself. He could still use his full strength to block Zhuowen's all-out attack. Zhuowen didn't waste any more words, and his right hand blasted out in the void. Instantly, terrifying energy surged and condensed in the void like clouds and rain, forming a terrifying giant hand that was like a towering mountain. Moreover, This giant hand wasn't ordinary, it was almost otherworldly. On the surface of this giant hand, there were raging black flames burning. This was the undying wizard fire, a terrifying flame that was formed by the combination of the undying bird and Zhu Rong's fire. It was also considered one of Zhuowen's killing moves, and its power was extremely terrifying. After all, back then he relied on the undying wizard fire to easily refine the golden crow's blood on the surface of Hou Yi's divine arrow. This showed how terrifying and powerful the undying wizard fire was. Rumble. The moment this giant hand condensed, it fell down and enveloped Shi Yu's entire body. Shi Yu's expression changed drastically. He mobilized all the energy in his body and took out all the divine weapons in his spiritual ring, just to block this attack. However, the moment Shi Yu came into contact with the flaming giant hand, his entire body burned up, and he was enveloped in the black flames. His body was engulfed by the black flames, and he disappeared without a trace. In other words, he was completely burned into ashes by the black flames, and there wasn't even a trace of him left. After the flaming giant hand dissipated, the screams disappeared, and so did Shi Yu. At this moment, all the foreign tribes who were watching became extremely quiet. Their actions were strangely in sync. Their eyes were wide open, and their gazes were filled with disbelief as they stared at the scene in front of them. When all the foreign tribes came back to their senses, they couldn't help but gasp. Everyone understood that Shi Yu had been destroyed, and his body and soul had been destroyed. And this young man from a small tribe, who no one thought highly of, had only used one move to destroy Shi Yu, and there wasn't even a trace of him left. Shi Fu's hideous smile froze on his face, and Shi Yinhe's face was completely stiff. Among the Moonwolf clan's team, Qian Ping's mocking laughter also came to an abrupt end. Even Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping and resting with his eyes closed, felt the strange atmosphere. He opened his eyes and saw this shocking scene. Zhuan slowly raised his head and looked at the high priest, Wu Wuxian, who was slightly moved, and said, "High priest, the victor has been decided. I think I have proven myself. I did indeed rely on my true strength to obtain a spot in the first stage." Before Wu Wuxian could speak, Shi Fu roared, "You dog, how dare you kill a member of my corpse ghoul clan? Today, you're dead meat. My corpse ghoul clan will kill you even if we have to go to heaven or hell." A terrifying murderous intent spread out like a tide. Shi Fu was enraged, and he actually attacked directly. A powerful aura exploded out, causing the nearby outsiders to let out a muffled groan as they retreated, their eyes filled with fear as they looked at the corpse. This Shi Fu was really powerful. Just his aura alone had such power. Bang! Chapter 33-35. Wu Xingyuan's Helpzhuowen's eyes were cold. Just as he was about to block Shi Fu's attack, a vast amount of energy suddenly swept over from afar. The direction of the energy was heading in Zhuowen's direction. Zhuowen's sharp divine thought could sense that the vast amount of energy was not directed at him, but at Shi Fu, who was attacking him. Zhuowen put down his right hand. He could sense that the energy was very powerful. Even he felt that it was not ordinary. It should be more than enough to block Shi Fu. Bang! The two energies collided violently, causing an unprecedented explosion. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and retreated dozens of steps. The powerful energy formed a shield in front of him, blocking the terrifying aftermath of the explosion. In Zhuowen's divine thought, the moment the explosion occurred, an elegant figure stood in front of him and easily blocked Shi Fu's full-force attack. Shi Fu grunted and couldn't help but retreat repeatedly. His face was terrifyingly pale. He raised his head and looked at the figure that stood before Zhuowen, and his pupils couldn't help but constrict as he said, "Wu Xingyuan? What do you mean by this?" As soon as Shi Fu's words came out, the surrounding foreign races reacted. Their gazes involuntarily fell on the figure. Just as Shi Fu had said, the figure was indeed the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. High Priestess Wu Wuxian, who was standing in front of the square, frowned slightly. She was also a little surprised that Wu Xingyuan would intervene in the affairs of a mere ant from a small tribe. The surrounding foreign races were also discussing. They were all making wild guesses about the relationship between Zhuowen and Wu Xingyuan. After all, if Zhuowen and Wu Xingyuan had nothing to do with each other, why would Wu Xingyuan help? Shi Yinmarsh's face was ugly. He glanced at Wu Xingyuan, then turned to Wu Wuxian and said in a deep voice, "High Priestess, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Why is Wu Xingyuan intervening in the private affairs of the corpse spirit tribe?" Wu Wuxian said indifferently, "Xingyuan is just upholding justice. Sure, you from your corpse ghoul clan was inferior and lost to Long Wen. But your corpse ghoul clan is unconvinced, so Shi Fu wants to use this reason to kill Long Wen. Isn't he looking down on our shaman clan too much?" Corpse Ian Marsh was stunned, and then he hurriedly lowered his head and said, "I don't dare. I was impulsive just now. However, that Long Wen is truly vicious and merciless. He didn't hold back in the slightest and actually killed Shiryu. That's truly too disgraceful. Is he trying to bully my corpse ghoul clan because there's no one capable? We'll talk about this later. Your corpse ghoul clan's Shi Fu attacked without knowing what was right and wrong. It was indeed a bit impulsive. It was only natural for Xingyuan to attack." Wu Wuxian said indifferently. Corpse Ian Marsh hurriedly nodded in agreement. This was the Sorcerer clan's territory, and the Sorcerer clan was much stronger than the Corpse Ghost clan. If Wu Wuxian had spoken, he really wouldn't have dared to say anything. Wu Xingyuan stood proudly. He didn't even look at Zhuowen. Instead, he looked at Shi Fu in front of him and said, "Shi Fu, you've crossed the line. The outcome of the battle between fellow Taoist Long Wen and fellow Taoist Shiryu has already been decided, but you came out and interfered. This is against the rules. I came out just to uphold justice." Shi Fu's gaze was gloomy, and he said mockingly, "I know why you attacked for this ant. Isn't it because this ant gave you a very good Heaven Ascension divine pill back then? Seeing how cautious you are, I'm afraid it's at least a Heaven Ascension divine pill." Wu Xingyuan's expression instantly turned ugly, and he said coldly, "Shi Fu, if you act on impulse again, then don't blame me for suppressing you with reason. You keep saying that fellow Taoist Long Wen is something. Haven't you thought about how wrong you're doing? If all the fellow Taoists participating in the Shaman Song gathering are like you, and you act on impulse and kill someone you don't like, then what is this? If you use your reason to do it, that's fine too. Today I, Wu Xingyuan, also don't like you, Shi Fu, and want to fight to the death with you. You and I fight. The winner lives and the loser dies. Do you dare to fight with me?" As soon as these words came out, all the foreign races were moved. No one expected that a small genius from a small clan would cause a life-and-death battle between two top geniuses of the primitive heavenly domain. Shi Fu was instantly stunned. With Shi Fu's personality, if someone provoked him like this, he would have slapped them to death. However, the person who provoked him now was Wu Xingyuan. Shi Fu hesitated. Wu Xingyuan was too terrifying. Before he broke through, he had challenged Wu Xingyuan and was almost beaten to death. Now that Wu Xingyuan had broken through and surpassed his realm, his strength would only be more terrifying. Now that Wu Xingyuan challenged him to a life-and-death battle, he was very conflicted and didn't dare to accept the challenge. "Coward, you were so arrogant just now, but now you're scared. You're indeed a piece of trash who bullies the weak and fears the strong." Zhuowen sneered. Shi Fu glared at Zhuowen coldly. Just as he was about to speak, Wu Wuxian spoke. "Let's end this matter here. Since this Long Wen indeed has the strength, then he's qualified to obtain a spot in the first stage. However, Long Wen, you were too ruthless. You really have to give me an explanation for this matter." The moment Wu Wuxian said that, the originally noisy square immediately quietened down. After all, Wu Wuxian was the high priest of the witch race and had a transcendent status. His words were very valuable and no one dared to refute. Even Wu Xingyuan and Shi Fu, who were confronting each other, fell silent. Numerous gazes gathered on Zhuo Wen, the main character of this event. They all wanted to know what explanation this young man from a small clan would give Wu Wuxian. Pon clasped his hands at Wu Wuxian and said, "Just now, it was indeed this Long who used too much strength. After all, Shi Fu looked down on people like a snob. I thought that Shiryu was really very powerful. I was too scared in my heart, so I gave it a try with all my strength. But I didn't expect that Shiryu couldn't take a beating. High Priest, I absolutely didn't have the heart to kill people. Instead, it was that Shifu who targeted me at every turn, wanting to kill me and be happy. I hope that High Priest can be discerning. Bullshit. Shifu roared angrily. Shifu, you come back. Just as Shifu was about to explode, Corpse Marsh shouted coldly, calling Shifu back. Although Shifu was furious, he did not dare to disobey Corpse Marsh's words and could only return to Corpse Marsh's side hatefully. The moment Shifu left, Wu Xingyuan also returned to the witch race team. From beginning to end, Wu Xingyuan did not give Zhuowen a glance. Clearly, in his view, Zhuowen was not qualified for him to look at. Zhuowen was speechless in his heart. He was clear why this Wu Xingyuan wanted to help him. Most likely, he felt that the value of the divine pill that he gave surpassed the value of the blazing phoenix exquisite leaf, so he felt somewhat indebted to him. Therefore, he took action to help him this time, repaying the favor that he thought he owed him. Although Zhuowen did not have much contact with Wu Xingyuan, he could feel that this Wu Xingyuan should be a very independent guy. Furthermore, his style of doing things was completely based on himself. He could tell that Wu Xingyuan simply looked down on him, a young man from a small clan. Moreover, he was even clearer that after helping him this time, Wu Xingyuan felt that he had already repaid the favor he owed. Next, his attitude toward him would probably only be even colder than that Shifu. Chapter 33-36. Stage 2-inch Longwen, I want an explanation. If I think your reason is reasonable, I will judge fairly and not accuse you. High Priest Wu Wuxian said calmly. Hearing this, Zhuowen frowned and said helplessly, High Priest, when you asked Shiryu to fight me, you didn't add any conditions. For example, you can't use too much force and you can't go overboard. Since the High Priest didn't say anything, I think a wise man like you wouldn't have forgotten. What you meant was that you were free to fight, regardless of death or injury. That's my understanding. Nonsense. A bunch of nonsense. High Priest, this ant is too arrogant. How dare he speculate your intentions? He deserves to die. I'm willing to kill this arrogant ant on behalf of the High Priest. Just as Zhuowen finished speaking, Shifu immediately retorted. Zhuowen didn't say anything and looked at Wu Wuxian. Wu Wuxian was the only one who could make the final decision. As long as Wu Wuxian didn't say anything, Shifu wouldn't dare to make a move. Well, you're right. You've barely satisfied me. You may leave and wait for the second stage of the competition to begin. Wu Wuxian's tone was still calm. Shifu's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Wu Wuxian's calm and emotionless gaze forced him to shut his mouth. His neck shrunk, and the words that he was about to say had completely withered away. Zhuowen nodded and calmly retreated to Crepe Myrtle Star's side. Zhuowen glanced at Crepe Myrtle Star's movements. He could see that Crepe Myrtle Star was prepared to fight on his behalf. This made him feel grateful to Crepe Myrtle Star. He believed that if Wu Wuxian had made an unfair judgment, Crepe Myrtle Star would have already made a move. Brother Crepe Myrtle, no matter what happens, you must not fight on my behalf. I have my own way of escaping. You don't have to go down with me. Zhuowen warned. Crepe Myrtle Star's eyes flickered. He hesitated for a moment and nodded. So this country bumpkin is called Longwen. His strength is not bad, but he's still far from senior apprentice brother Tu Qian. Within the Moon Wolf clan's team, Qian Ping, who had always disliked Zhuowen, curled her lips and said with some displeasure. Although Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping, was surprised by Zhuowen's performance, he still looked proud after hearing Qian Ping's words. However, the Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Itaiha, had a solemn expression as he said in a deep voice, Both of you, don't underestimate your opponent. Although Longwen's background is far inferior to yours, I feel that his strength is not simple. He might not have used his full strength in the battle with Shiryu. Tu Qian and Qian Ping were startled. They didn't expect Itaiha to have such a high evaluation of the dragon text. However, the two of them didn't really mind. As far as they were concerned, no matter how strong Longwen was, could he compare to top geniuses like them? The difference between a small race and a large race, especially a top race like the top 10 races, was too great. This also caused the geniuses nurtured by the two races to be completely incomparable. No matter how good Zhuowen's performance was, in their eyes, Yuan was still from a small race and an ant-like existence. They still looked down on him. On the other hand, Feng Lilua, the Phoenix master of the Phoenix People's team, frowned deeply. He felt that Zhuowen's figure was somewhat familiar. He hated this sense of familiarity because this sense of familiarity reminded him of a person he hated very much. However, after carefully inspecting Longwen, he didn't sense any aura of that annoying person. It was just his intuition that this person was somewhat familiar. Regardless of who Longwen is, how can a small race possess such great strength and a celestial divine elixir? Such a small race must have a huge secret. After the Sorcerer's Song conference ends, this kid must find an opportunity to get hold of this secret. Feng Lilua's eyes flickered. However, he had a bad plan in his heart. Now that the first stage of the Sorcerer's Song conference has ended, the second stage is about to begin. The 500 contestants this time, please step forward. Those who have been eliminated, please leave. Wu Wuxian spoke again. The foreign races who had been eliminated looked dejected and slowly left. They knew that they had no chance of participating in the Sorcerer's Song conference. The second stage is very simple. As you can see, around the guarded ground, there are 12 huge statues of ancestral sorcerers. These 12 statues of ancestral sorcerers were created when the sorcerer tribe was first established. They were carved by the sorcerer tribe's ancestor, who was also a direct descendant of the ancestral sorcerer. Regardless of appearance, aura, or background, they are very similar to the real 12 ancestral sorcerers. Next, I will activate the ancient ancestral sorcerer's sacred aura in the statues. The sacred aura of the ancestral sorcerer will continue to strengthen. Those who cannot withstand it will be eliminated. Only the last 108 contestants will be able to successfully advance to the second stage. Wu Wuxian's voice was calm, but it contained a unique rhythm that made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. Everyone, please come to the centermost area of the guarded ground and sit cross-legged in your best posture. I will begin to activate the sacred aura of Pangu. Wu Wuxian pointed at the centermost area of the guarded ground, which was 3 miles in radius, and said plainly. After Wu Wuxian finished speaking, Wu Xingyuan stomped his right foot and teleported to the centermost area of the guarded ground. He was very conceited. With his hands behind his back, he stood there, dazzling like the god of war. Shi Fu snorted and landed not far away from Wu Xingyuan. However, he was not as arrogant as Wu Xingyuan. Instead, he took out a futon and sat down cross-legged to adjust his condition. Wu Qiutong, Tu Qian, Xian Ping, Feng Buming, and the rest of the geniuses from the top 10 tribes flew over. Then, the geniuses from the top 10 tribes came to their senses and rushed out like a swarm of bees. They found an empty space within the 3-mile radius, took out a futon, and sat down cross-legged. Yun, Ziwei Star-Lord, and Jingshan, the only 3 geniuses from the top 5 tribes that made it to the top 500, also entered the 3-mile radius. They randomly chose a spot, took out a futon, and sat down cross-legged. From this angle, other than Wu Xingyuan who was standing in the center of the guarded ground, the rest of the geniuses were all sitting cross-legged on the futon, adjusting their condition. Let's begin. Wu Wuxian's eyes were calm. She formed a seal with her hands, and a 7-colored radiance surged between her hands. Swoosh! Suddenly, a 7-colored radiance shot out, piercing through the void, and landed on one of the statues of the ancestor sorcerer. It was the statue of ancestor sorcerer Zheng. The statue seemed to have come to life, and the surface of the statue was burning with a terrifying flame. A scorching heat wave came crashing down, affecting the centermost area of the guarded ground. Bang! 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 The moment the terrifying pressure came crashing down, some of the foreign races let out a groan. Blood flowed out from the corner of their mouths. Obviously, they could not adapt to the sudden increase in pressure. There were even a few foreign races who were not prepared. The moment the powerful pressure came crashing down, they staggered and flew out, landing heavily on the ground. These foreign races who were sent flying out were immediately eliminated, and they left the scene quietly. Chapter 33-37. Ancestral which statue. Zhuan had a strange look on his face because when the pressure fell on him, it did not bring him any substantial pressure. Instead, it felt as comfortable as a spring breeze. Moreover, he also found that the moment the pressure fell on him, the blood of his Pangu's sacred body was boiling and cheering. His Pangu's sacred body was even absorbing the pressure and turning it into a power that belonged only to it. Zhuan was pleasantly surprised. This meant that he could rely on the pressure of the ancestral which statue to temper his Pangu's sacred body. He also had some guesses about this phenomenon. The 12 ancestral witches were born from Pangu's flesh and blood and were inheriting Pangu's power. What he cultivated was the Pangu's sacred body. In terms of quality, it was naturally superior to the ancestral witch statue. Naturally, the pressure of the ancestral witch statue could be used by the Pangu's sacred body. Thinking of this, Zhuan suppressed the surprise in his heart and sat cross-legged on the futon. He began to silently absorb the terrifying pressure and the great benefits it brought to his Pangu's sacred body. Of course, Zhuan wanted to hide his cultivation process, so he did not make too much of a fuss. Instead, he sat quietly and cultivated like the other alien races. Time passed and the seven-colored light in Wu Wuxian's hand shot out again and landed on the second ancestral witch statue. A second, even more terrifying aura came crashing down and merged with the first aura, resulting in an unprecedentedly explosive aura. Instantly, several outsiders were sent tumbling backward, eliminated from the competition. Even more outsiders coughed up mouthfuls of blood as they barely managed to withstand the terrifying pressure of the second wave of attacks. When the third ancestral witch statue was activated, dozens of alien races were eliminated. When the fourth ancestral witch statue was activated, nearly 100 alien races were eliminated. When the sixth ancestral witch statue was activated, there were only a little more than 180 alien races left in the central area. These 180 foreign races could be considered as the elites of the second phase, and could be considered as relatively strong existences. Another figure coughed out blood. This was a beautiful figure, a female from the outsiders. Everyone looked over and saw that the beautiful figure was the genius of the Moon Wolf clan, Qian Ping. The moment Qian Ping retreated, Itaiha acted and pulled her to his side. He also took out a healing divine pill and fed it to Qian Ping to heal her injuries. "Clan leader, I've disappointed you," Qian Ping said with shame. Itaiha shook his head and consoled her. "Qian Ping, it's not your fault. Actually, I think that your talent. It's mainly because your cultivation. Your art. I'm surprised that you've been able to hold on until now. You don't blame yourself." Itaiha was actually very satisfied with Qian Ping. Others might not be clear about Qian Ping's cultivation situation, but he was very clear. Qian Ping's because she was at a young age. She was still she, and she was being she. Her was her? Her art? Her she. Hearing Itaiha's comforting words, Qian Ping finally regained her calm. She looked at Tu Qian and saw that he was still sitting calmly on the futon. Her lips curled into a smile. But soon she saw Zhuo Wen's figure in the center. When she saw that Zhuan was calm and did not look like he could hold on any longer, Qian Ping was displeased. "This country bumpkin can hold on until now? That's unexpected," Qian Ping muttered to herself. At that moment, another ray of rainbow light shot out from Wu Wuxian's hand and landed on the seventh wizard statue. The seventh and even more terrifying oppressive might, combined with the previous 6 oppressive might, came crashing down. Traces of cracks actually appeared on the white jade ground in the center. It could be seen how terrifying this oppressive might was. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so outsiders were sent flying, unable to withstand the terrifying pressure. They were eliminated from the competition. Soon, there were only 108 foreign tribesmen left in the center. The most eye-catching one was Wu Xingyuan. He stood in the same spot and looked calm. It was as if the terrifying force did not exist to him. The 108th place has been decided. Those who are second class are qualified to enter the last round. However, the second round is not over yet. I will continue to release the force of the wizard statue. Those who cannot withstand it can leave. Those who are willing to continue to endure it can stay. This force is beneficial to you. As Wu Wuxian spoke, he shot out another ray of rainbow light. The 8th wizard statue was activated. At this moment, the surrounding ancestral sorcerer statues seemed to have undergone a qualitative change. In an instant, it became abnormally terrifying. The surrounding pressure seemed to have formed a terrifying storm, continuously tearing apart all of the demonic tribe members in the central area. In an instant, most of the foreign tribesmen spat out blood and flew out. There were only 15 foreign tribesmen left in the center. Among the 15 foreign tribesmen, other than Zhuan, Ziwei Star Sovereign, and Jingshan, the other 12 were all geniuses from the 10 great tribes. What was worth noting was that the sorcerer tribe occupied 3 of the 12 spots. These 3 were Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiuran, and Wu Wenbin. The other 9 were the geniuses from the other 10 great tribes. For example, Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people, Wu Qiutong from the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe, Tu Qian from the Moon Wolf tribe, and so on. Many of the foreign tribesmen were surprised by Zhuan, Jingshan, and Ziwei Star Sovereign, who had persevered until now. Wu Wuxian also noticed the 3 of them. Another ray of rainbow light flashed and the 9th wizard statue was activated. The terrifying force of the force was like a tidal wave. This time, the force of the force had undergone a qualitative change. It was too terrifying. 4 of the foreign tribesmen groaned and left. These 4 foreign tribesmen were Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people, Hu Teng from the Black Tiger tribe, Long Hui from the Dragon tribe, and Xiang Gui from the Giant Turtle tribe. After the 4 of them left, they returned to their teams in shame. At the same time, they felt that it was inconceivable that Zhuan and the other 2 were still in the central area. The 10th wizard statue was activated and the ground in the central area completely collapsed. The surrounding force of the force was like a storm, chaotic and terrifying. It could tear any living being into pieces at any time. The moment the 10th statue was activated, the force of the force had reached a terrifying level. Even Wu Xingyuan frowned slightly. He took out a futon and began to sit cross-legged on it. Obviously, the current force of the force was so terrifying that even he had to be cautious. Ziwei Star Sovereign, Jingshan, Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the rest of the people also left with a groan. At this moment, there were only 3 people left in the central area. These 3 people were Zhuan, Wu Xingyuan, and Shifu. Zhuan looked at Ziwei Star Sovereign who had retreated and was a little surprised. With Ziwei Star Sovereign's strength, he should be able to hold on for a while. However, when he saw the look in Ziwei Star Sovereign's eyes, he knew that Ziwei Star Sovereign wanted to leave as soon as possible. He did not want to stay any longer and be too conspicuous. As for Crepe Myrtle Star Lord, he gave Zhuan a look, telling him to quickly retreat. Chapter 33-38. At the instant when the 10th ancestral shaman statue poured down, the corpse was caught off guard and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed, and the bones in his entire body creaked incessantly like a symphony. Shifu didn't expect that the pressure emitted by the 10th ancestral shaman statue would be so much more terrifying than the previous one. Now, he was barely holding on. He couldn't imagine how terrifying the pressure in this area would be when the 11th statue was activated. Thinking of this, Shifu's face turned ugly. However, what made his face even uglier was the figure of Zhuan who was sitting not far away. There were only 3 people left on the field, and that was him, Wu Xingyuan, and Zhuan. However, Shifu found it inconceivable that Zhuan could hold on until now. Moreover, he saw that Zhuan, who was sitting cross-legged, had a peaceful look on his face. The terrifying pressure around him didn't seem to have much effect on him. Humph! This guy must be forcing himself. A mere ant from a small clan can actually hold on until now. The killing intent in Shifu's eyes was terrifying. He felt that the young man from a small clan who had gone against him time and time again was unusual. Now, the young man from a small clan wasn't strong enough. He had to eliminate this disaster as soon as possible to prevent future troubles. However, he knew that now wasn't the time to make a move. After the Wusong conference, he had to get rid of this guy. Wu Xingyuan also noticed Zhuowen's existence and finally looked at Zhuowen. Although he knew that the young man from a small clan wasn't weak, he didn't expect him to be able to hold on until now. It was really beyond his expectations. On the other hand, Crepe Myrtle Star, who had retreated a long time ago, was a little anxious. He sent a voice transmission to Zhuowen and asked Zhuowen to retreat first and not be so conspicuous. It was easy to make others jealous. Unfortunately, Zhuowen didn't respond to him. Instead, he sat cross-legged with his eyes closed as if he was cultivating. Not only Wu Xingyuan and Shi Fu, but almost all the patriarch-level powerhouses of the various clans who were watching in the surroundings also noticed Zhuowen, who was a very disharmonious existence. Is this draconic text really from a small clan? Motherfucker, he actually managed to hold on until now. How strong must his physical body be to be able to do this? I also feel that it's strange. This dragon rune's aura isn't strong. How did he last until now? I also feel very puzzled. Could it be that this guy is cheating? Zhuowen's performance was simply too eye-catching, and it aroused the suspicions of many non-human races. Zhuowen, however, did not care about the discussions around him. He was tirelessly absorbing the powerful pressure from the surroundings. The ancestral shaman pressure was like nutrients that surged into his body, tempering his body. In the process of tempering, he found that the realm of his Pangu's sacred body was faintly loosened. There were signs of a breakthrough, which was incredible. His Pangu's sacred body was originally at the peak of the 7 stars realm. Now that the realm had loosened, he felt that he was one step closer to the 8 stars realm. However, the more he absorbed the pressure, the more obvious the signs of his sacred body's realm loosening. He could also feel how strong the barrier to the 8 stars realm was. He felt that it was somewhat impossible to completely advance to the 8 stars realm. With the energy of this pressure, I think I should be able to break through to the 8 stars realm from the peak of the 7 stars realm. Zhuowen's eyes were full of light. He had no confidence in advancing his Pangu's sacred body to the 8 stars realm, but there was hope for him to break through to the 8 stars realm. However, this pressure was not enough. He needed a stronger and more terrifying pressure to temper his sacred body so that he could break through to the 8 stars realm in one go. Wu Wuxian frowned slightly. She took a deep look at Zhuowen. She felt that Zhuowen was very strange. This guy did not look like he was enduring the pressure of the ancestral shaman. Instead, he looked like he was enjoying it. Could it be that I'm imagining things? Thinking of this, Wu Wuxian shook her head. She waved her right hand and shot out the 11th ray of 7-colored light. Suddenly, the 11th ancestral shaman statue was activated. Rumble! That horrifying pressure came down, causing the ground within a radius of 3 miles in the center of the guarded ground to crumble apart entirely. Moreover, this kind of collapse was catastrophic. The entire ground was shattered, and layer after layer of terrifying craters appeared. These pits were too deep. They were like an abyss, pitch black. After the 11th ray of pressure was activated, Shi Fu could no longer withstand it. He had reached his limit. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward, leaving the 3 miles of land. Even Wu Xingyuan frowned. His face was pale. A trace of blood slowly flowed out from the corner of Wu Xingyuan's mouth. Obviously, he was not feeling well under the impact of the pressure. Wu Xingyuan looked at Zhuowen. His pupils could not help but shrink. This was because he realized that the ordinary young man from the small tribe still had a calm expression. He sat cross-legged on the futon and was as still as a mountain. He was like an old monk with profound dharma. What's going on? The dragon rune is not affected at all? That's impossible. Wu Xingyuan was really shocked. This was the first time he had been moved since he participated in the Sorcerer Song gathering. The deep pit was filled with dust, and a powerful pressure filled the area around the pit. Under the effect of the pressure, the dense dust in the deep pit was endowed with extremely powerful energy. Like countless sword lights, they quickly and chaotically collided in the deep pit, forming dazzling light and energy. The deep pit had formed a natural killing array. Any living thing that entered the deep pit would be crushed into powder by the terrifying killing array formed by the combination of the pressure and dust. Even the divine senses of many foreign races in the vicinity were blocked by this natural killing array. I never thought that activating the 11th ancestral shaman statue would cause such a terrifying pressure. An ordinary master of heaven's initial stage would be seriously injured if he entered the deep pit. If he stayed in there for a long time, he would be at risk of dying. The Moon Wolf tribe leader, Itaiha, looked solemn. He was shocked by the terrifying pressure. Qianping, who was standing beside Itaiha, said softly, "Why hasn't Dragon Rune come out yet? He might have been holding on. Now he might have died in there." Itaiha shook his head and said, "The Dragon Rune is not strong, but his body's defensive power is very strong. He must have cultivated a secret skill of physical defense. Otherwise, with his strength, he would not have been able to hold on until now." Many of the tribe leaders agreed with Itaiha's words. They also thought that the Dragon Rune's strength was ordinary. The reason why he could hold on until now was that he had cultivated a secret skill of physical defense. "I see. The Dragon Rune is just a little thicker. His strength might not be as strong as mine." Qianping regained her confidence and said self-righteously. She had mocked Zhuowen in every possible way and even called Zhuowen a country bumpkin. Now, the country bumpkin that she called a country bumpkin had performed so well in the Sorcerer Song gathering. He was much stronger than her. Naturally, she was unhappy and her feelings were complicated. Now, she had found a reason to regain her confidence. She felt that the Dragon Rune was nothing special. He was just lucky. At this moment, Wu Wuxian released the 12th ray of 7-colored brilliance. The last ancestral shaman statue was activated. The natural killing array in the deep pit formed a terrifying storm that tore everything in front of it apart. Chapter 33-39. Half 8 star. Looks like someone can't take it anymore. It should be Long One. What do you mean it should be Long One? It must be Long One. I don't know what kind of dog's hit luck that Long One has. He actually lasted until now in the second stage. But now his luck has run out. Compared to Wu Xingyin, he is still far from it. That's true. After all, Wu Xingyuan is the most dazzling genius of the Sorcerer clan and the true representative of the younger generation of the prehistoric heavenly region. He is invincible. In the deep pit, the moment the muffled groan sounded out, the surrounding people began to chatter. Immediately after, a miserable figure flew out of the deep pit. Longwen can't take it anymore. The Moon Wolf clan patriarch, Itaiha, shook his head. This little bastard must have a lot of secrets. We can't let him go. To be able to withstand the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue until now, we can't let him go. The corpse ghost clan patriarch, Shi Inzhuang, said hatefully in his heart. Wu Wuxian's gaze also landed on the faintly discernible figure. Like everyone else, she also believed that the figure was Zhuowen. She was very confident in Wu Xingyuan. No matter what stage, Wu Xingyuan had to be first, and could only be first. This came from the pride of the Sorcerer clan, and also her confidence in Wu Xingyuan's talent and strength. At this moment, all the gazes in the surroundings were fixed on the wretched figure. Their thoughts were surprisingly the same. They all thought that this figure must be Longwen and could not be Wu Xingyuan. Bang! After the miserable figure flew out of the deep pit, he twisted his waist, flipped in the air, and landed lightly on the ground. However, this figure was clearly exhausted. He knelt on one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. When all eyes finally gathered on this figure, the owners of these gazes were stunned. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Even someone as steady as Wu Wuxian staggered, a clear indication of the turmoil in her heart. What's going on? Shouldn't the one who came out be Longwen? How could it be Wu Xingyuan? Are you seeing things? Did you mistake Longwen for Wu Xingyuan? All the alien races recognized that this figure was not the Longwen they were expecting, but the #1 genius of the Sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. An uproar erupted in the surrounding area. Many of the non-human beings were in disbelief at this result. Wu Xingyuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly stood up. He stared at the deep pit in front of him for a long time before finally turning around and walking to Wu Wuxian's side without a word. Nephew Wu, did Long Wen die because he couldn't withstand the pressure inside? The Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Itai He, couldn't recognize Long Wen, so he stepped forward and asked. He must have died in there. Brother E, you can't be thinking that the ants from that small clan have the ability to hold on in there until now, right? What a joke. Corpse Yin Marsh sneered. Shi Fu coldly snorted and glanced at the deep pit in the distance. He firmly believed in Corpse Yin Marsh's judgment. Such a death was letting Long Wen off too lightly. Wu Wuxian looked at Wu Xingyuan, puzzled. She wanted to verify Itai's words with Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's face didn't look good. He didn't want to explain, but Wu Wuxian was also curious, so he had to speak. Long Wen didn't die. He's still in the deep pit. I lost to him in the second stage. After Wu Xingyuan finished his sentence, he shut his mouth and his expression was cold. However, this sentence was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples and spread among the non-human beings. Wu Xingyuan actually admitted defeat. This was too unbelievable. However, his strength isn't strong. If it's a one-on-one fight, I can defeat him in one move. The surrounding cheers were too loud. Wu Xingyuan couldn't bear to listen any longer. He explained that Long Wenyuan wasn't his match. The second stage of the competition was special. That was why Long Wenyuan took advantage of the loophole. As soon as this statement came out, the surrounding clamor lessened. Many of the non-human beings agreed with Wu Xingyuan's words. The second stage was indeed not a competition of strength. Long Wen's luck was indeed good, so he had the opportunity to overshadow Wu Xingyuan's limelight. Wu Wuxian's beautiful eyes turned cold. She wasn't targeting Wu Xingyuan, but Long Wen. She wouldn't allow the number one genius of the sorcerer tribe to be defeated. But now, Long Wen had actually overshadowed Wu Xingyuan in the second stage. This was too ridiculous. Wu Wuxian's expression was calm, but her heart was furious. She wanted to kill Long Wen. High Priestess, Long Wen hasn't come out yet. Our divine senses can't enter. Why don't you stop the pressure? Let's see how Long Wen is doing inside. Itai has said impatiently. Wu Wuxian shook her head and said, I can't control the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue. I can only activate the statue, but I can't stop the pressure. However, this pressure will only exist for 2 hours. After 2 hours, the pressure will naturally disappear. Not far away, Crepe Myrtle's star frowned slightly. He felt that Wu Wuxian was lying. Wu Wuxian should be able to control the pressure, but she said that she couldn't. Obviously, she didn't want to remove the pressure in the deep pit. This was targeted at Zhuan. Wu Xingyuan looked at Wu Wuxian again, but didn't say anything. He knew that Wu Wuxian was lying, but he remained silent. He even hoped that Long Wen would die in the deep pit. This was the best result. As time passed, Zhuan still hadn't appeared. Many of the foreign tribes around were talking about it. They all thought that Long Wen might have died inside. At this moment, Zhuan, who was in the deep pit, was bursting with blazing light. The light was very strong, but the pressure and dust around the deep pit completely covered the light. Even the aura didn't leak out. Zhuan's eyes were full of light. The pressure of the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues was so strong that it had tempered his Pangu's sacred body to the peak. That's right. Zhuan's Pangu's sacred body was about to break through. Even though he knew that it was impossible for him to break through to 8 stars, he knew that it wouldn't be a problem for him to break through to half 8 stars. This was also to build up his foundation for breaking through to 8 stars. Boom. Suddenly, the sparkling and translucent radiance on Zhuo Wen's body reached its peak. Countless rays of light overflowed in all directions, shooting out like arrows. A terrifying aura surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. The surrounding craters, under the effect of this terrifying energy, actually cracked open, expanding from 3 miles to more than 10 miles. At this moment, the terrifying pressure in the deep pit was completely annihilated. The moment the pressure was annihilated, Zhuowen's aura was retracted under the effect of the Panga banner. At this moment, all the foreign tribes outside were leaving the central area of the guarded ground. They looked at the deep pit that had expanded several times in front of them in shock. Just now, this 3-kilometer-wide crater suddenly burst open, and a terrifying energy burst out, directly expanding the crater to its current size of more than 10 kilometers. The nearby foreign tribes quickly retreated far away, looking at the expanding deep pit in front of them with lingering fear. None of the foreign tribes thought that this strange phenomenon had anything to do with Zhuan. They all thought that it was caused by the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statues. That long one should be dead for sure. That terrifying energy burst out just now. Even if he doesn't die, he'll die. That was what most of the foreign tribes thought. Chapter 3340. Feng Buming came looking for them. The moment they heard the clear sound of footsteps, all the foreign tribe members looked in the direction of the footsteps. They saw that the dust in the deep pit in front of them was swept away and dispersed. A figure as straight as a spear appeared in front of them. This guy. He's not dead. Shi Fu and Shi Inzhou's faces turned ugly. The patriarch of the Moon Wolf tribe, Yi Taihe, frowned slightly. He looked deeply at the figure that emerged from the deep pit and muttered in a low voice, "These dragon runes are really not simple. It seems that I made a mistake back then." Qian Ping, who had called Zhuan a country bumpkin, also fell silent. Or rather, she was stunned and could not say anything. Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping, no longer had the arrogance in his eyes. Instead, it was replaced by seriousness and fear. The most shocked person was Wu Xingyuan, who was standing beside Wu Wuxian. The moment Zhuan appeared, his body trembled slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. What Wu Xingyuan could not understand was how terrifying the pressure of the 12 wizard statues was. Even an expert in the advanced stage of the sky-piercing master realm would be severely injured if he was enveloped by such a terrifying pressure. But what kind of freak was this long one? Not only did he survive, but his body was also spotless. He didn't seem to have any injuries at all. How did he do it? Wu Xingyuan remembered clearly that when he could not withstand the pressure of the 12 wizard statues and had retreated, he had specially looked at Zhuan. At that time, although Zhuan was in a better state than he was also in a sorry state. He was not as spotless as he was now. Furthermore, Wu Xingyuan could faintly feel that Zhuan's strength seemed to have improved compared to before. Even so, he still could not see Zhuan's specific cultivation level. On the other hand, Wu Wuxian's expression turned ugly. His desire to kill Zhuan grew even stronger. Originally, Wu Wuxian had planned to use the pressure of the wizard statues to completely destroy Zhuan. However, she did not expect Zhuan to come out unscathed. This was a slap to her face. Although Wu Wuxian was filled with killing intent toward Zhuan, she could not do it now. After all, the witch song contest still had to continue. Wu Wuxian waved her sleeve and a surge of energy poured out. It landed on the huge pit in the middle of the guarded ground. The huge pit was immediately filled Wu Wuxian's sky-piercing master realm. After that, Wu Wuxian did not even mention Zhuan. Instead, he said indifferently, "Now that the second stage is over, the 108 contestants have been chosen. I will give you 3 days to rest. Rest in the guarded ground. The heavens, the energy in the guarded ground is much. Is the energy? Is heavens is the realm world way? Is the heavens world? 3. I is master realm, I. Wu Wuxian and Wu Wuxian, studio, Wu Wuxian studio, Wu studio. Brother Long, you have to be careful of Wu Wuxian. Due to your outstanding performance in the second round, Wu Wuxian might hold a grudge against you." Jingshan's voice rang in Zhuan's mind as soon as he arrived beside Crepe Star Sovereign. Zhuan turned his head and looked at Jingshan. He nodded at her, indicating that he knew what he was doing. "Brother Zhua, you should have come down earlier. You stole Wu Xingyuan's limelight. I'm afraid the witch tribe will do something to you." Crepe Star Sovereign sighed. Zhuan smiled. "Brother Crepe Star Sovereign, the reason why I didn't come down is that the pressure from the witch statue is beneficial to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stolen the limelight. After all, the risk is too great." Crepe Star Sovereign was stunned. He nodded and did not ask what benefits Zhuan had obtained. He knew that Zhuan had a big secret. Since Yuan could benefit from it as a friend, he was happy for him. After chatting for a while, they found a remote place and sat down cross-legged, intending to adjust their state. Both Zhuo Wen and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch were not injured. Crepe Star Sovereign had retreated in advance. With his strength, it would be strange if he was injured. Zhuowen's Pangu's sacred body had just advanced to half an 8-star, so he was in good condition. However, he also knew that he had just advanced, so he had to consolidate his realm first to prevent it from becoming unstable. This advancement made Zhuowen very confident. If he could get the witch venom, his Pangu sacred body would be able to advance to the 8-star level. While he was consolidating his Pangu sacred body, his original body in the great world began to separate a small part of his divine soul and began to condense the second divine soul sword essence. Although Zhuo Wen already had the experience from last time, the process of condensing this time still caused him to grimace in pain. However, his condition was much better than the first time. After the separation of the divine soul, the rest was the continuous condensation process. It could be said that Zhuowen's divine soul and the cultivation of his physical body were not neglected. However, when he was condensing the second divine soul sword essence, Yuan began to find that his divine soul could not hold on any longer. He had no doubt that if he condensed the third divine soul sword essence, his divine soul would probably collapse. He knew that this was because his divine soul was not strong enough. If his divine soul was strong enough, it would be fine no matter how many divine soul sword essences he condensed. Not long after Zhuowen sat cross-legged to cultivate, he heard footsteps approaching him. He opened his eyes and found that a figure had already walked in front of him, facing him. When he saw the true face of this figure, the corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. The owner of this figure turned out to be the genius of the Phoenix people, Feng Bumming. Feng Bumming looked at Zhuowen, cupped his hands, and said politely, "Fellow Taoist Long, I'm Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people. I wonder if you have time, fellow Taoist Long? I have something to discuss with you." Although Feng Bumming's tone was polite, Yuan could still see the arrogance and displeasure in Feng Bumming's eyes. He glanced at the Phoenix Master Feng Lilua of the Phoenix people's team behind Feng Bumming. He knew that Feng Bumming had come to find him under Feng Lilua's instructions. "If you have something to say it quickly," Zhuowen said calmly. Feng Bumming was stunned and immediately flew into a rage. Fortunately, he was more scheming and did not flare up on the spot. He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist Long, you have to know that I'm representing the Phoenix people to find you. Is this your attitude? Are the Phoenix people that great? I've even killed Shi Yu from the Ghoul clan. Why would I be afraid of you Phoenix people? Or are you saying that the Phoenix people are much stronger than the Ghoul clan?" Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Feng Bumming was flustered and exasperated, but he did not dare to respond to Zhuowen's words. Although the Phoenix people were part of the top 10 clans, their strength was not ranked high. On the other hand, the Ghoul clan was very strong and could be ranked in the top 3 among the top 10 clans. Chapter 3341. The Third Stage. In the end, Feng Bumming did not manage to find a chance to discuss with Zhuowen. Instead, he was furious. When Feng Bumming told Feng Lilua about the conversation between him and Zhuowen, Feng Lilua was not angry. Instead, she looked at Zhuowen seriously. From Feng Bumming's words, she could tell that the dragon language seemed to be prejudiced against the Phoenix people. However, Feng Lilua knew very well that the Phoenix people did not recognize the dragon language at all. This made Feng Lilua feel strange, and she felt a little uneasy. Not long after Feng Bumming left, the geniuses of the other big tribes came to Zhuowen one after another. Unfortunately, they were all rejected by Zhuowen. This made many geniuses of the foreign tribes unhappy with Zhuowen. 3 days passed quickly, and Zhuowen had completely consolidated his half-step to 8-star realm. Even if he did not rely on the Panga banner, the aura on his body would not easily leak out and be detected by others. Meanwhile, Wu Wuxian walked out of the sorcerer tribe's hall again. This time, Wu Wuxian only brought Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiran, and Wu Wenbin, the 3 geniuses who were participating in the Sorcerer Song Conference. As for the other sorcerer tribe elites, he did not bring them along. Moreover, many of the foreign tribes in the square also noticed that Wu Wuxian, who had just walked out, had a look of anxiety in his eyes. He seemed to be a little absent-minded. Zhuan also noticed Wu Wuxian's anxious expression, and he was a little confused. What could have happened that would make the high priest of the sorcerer tribe, who was in a high position, so anxious? Zhuan could not help but recall that when Wu Wuxian had come out to host the conference, he had said that the sorcerer tribe had an important guest, and the sorcerer tribe's holy master had personally received that important guest. Zhuan believed that the only person who could make Wu Wuxian so anxious was the important guest that even the sorcerer tribe's holy master had to personally receive. Thinking of this, Zhuan was very curious about the important guest who had come to the sorcerer tribe. What kind of person could make a peerless tribe like the sorcerer tribe so cautious? The anxiety on Wu Wuxian's face was quickly concealed. She walked to the front of the square and said in a low voice, "The 108 contestants who advanced in the second round, I wonder if you have adjusted your conditions. If you have adjusted, then gather in front of me." After Wu Wuxian, Zhuowen, and Purple Star Sovereign, the Star, and the 108 foreign tribes, and Wu Wuxian all gathered star. Wu Wuxian, and Wu Wuxian was Wu Wuxian realm, Wu Wuxian Wu and Wuxian Wu Wu. Zhuowen looked at Wu Xingyuan and realized that Wu Xingyuan had recovered. He was still looking down on the world as if he was standing on the clouds, overlooking all the living things in the world. Moreover, since Wu Xingyuan appeared, he didn't even look at Zhuowen. This was blatant disregard. However, Zhuowen did not care. He knew that Wu Xingyuan had adjusted his state of mind. In this state, Wu Xingyuan was the most terrifying. He really had the foundation to look down on all the geniuses of his generation. Even Zhuowen could not help but admire Wu Xingyuan. If he had fought Wu Xingyuan before, he would not have thought that his chances of winning were high. However, his Pangu sacred body had improved. If he used all the power in his body, his chances of winning against Wu Xingyuan were at least 50%. The third round of the competition is very simple. Do you see the 12 wizard statues around you? Inside each wizard statue, there is a mysterious and vast space. You can choose one of the wizard statues and enter it to fight. The final winner will get one of the 12 spots, Wu Wuxian said calmly. Hearing this, all the foreign tribes could not help but look at the 12 wizard statues around them. They knew that the third round of the competition was similar to the first round. They would choose one wizard statue and the final winner would get one spot. From there, the 12 spots would be chosen. In an instant, many of the foreign tribes looked at the top geniuses of the top 10 tribes with fear. For example, Wu Xingyuan, Shi Fu and other famous and terrifying geniuses. They knew very well that they had no chance of winning against such geniuses. In the end, they would become the stepping stones of others. You can start choosing now. This round is similar to the first round. If you die in the space of the wizard statues, you will not really die. A substitute will automatically be born to die in your place. The loser will be eliminated directly. Hearing this, Wu Wuxian looked at the 108 contestants in front of the square. However, none of the contestants started choosing. They were sizing up their opponents and paying attention to their every move. Obviously, they were planning to choose after the others. They hoped that they could choose a space of a weaker wizard statue. "Brother Longman, do you dare to enter the candle dragon statue with me?" Suddenly, Wu Xingyuan, who was standing at the front, turned around and looked at Zhuan. Wu Xingyuan's voice immediately attracted the attention of all the foreign tribes. Everyone looked at Zhuan. They were very surprised. They didn't expect Wu Xingyuan to ask Yuan to enter the ancestral witch statue with him. This was a challenge. Zhuan shook his head and said, "Brother Xingyi, you are very powerful. However, I don't think there is a need for us to fight so early. In fact, there is no need for us to fight at all." Zhuowen's goal was to enter the wizard magical pond. He would not enter the wizard statue where Wu Xingyuan was. There were too many variables and it was not worth it. Wu Xingyuan nodded and remained expressionless. He turned around and no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. He took a step forward and entered the candle dragon statue. I thought that this long one would be so unyielding. I didn't expect him to be such a coward. Qian Ping, who was in the Moon Wolf tribe, said with disdain. Qian Ping was not the only one. Many of the geniuses who had high hopes for Zhuan shook their heads when they saw that Zhuan did not dare to accept the challenge. At the same time, many of the foreign tribe geniuses who saw Zhuan as their opponent heaved a sigh of relief. After all, Zhuan had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round and they subconsciously thought that Zhuan was not weak. Now, it seemed that Su Mo had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round because of luck and not because of his real strength. Since that was the case, many of the foreign tribe geniuses were less fearful of Zhuan than before. After Wu Xingyuan entered the Candle Dragon statue, Wu Qiutong, Feng Buming and the rest of the geniuses from the top 10 tribes chose the statues that they liked. However, they were smart and they purposely avoided the statues of the top geniuses from the top 10 tribes. Shi Fu from the Corpse Ghost tribe did not choose the wizard statue. He crossed his arms and looked at Zhuan coldly. Shi Fu's action naturally attracted the attention of many of the surrounding foreign tribes. They quickly understood the Shi Fu's attitude. The Shi Fu was waiting for Longwen to enter first before going in. It seems that Shi Fu is targeting Longwen. I'm afraid Longwen will be eliminated this time. If Shi Fu and Longwen enter the same statue, Longwen will definitely be eliminated. Longwen's performance in the second round had nothing to do with his strength. If it's a real battle, then this Longwen can only be considered to be at the bottom of the 108 contestants. Chapter 33-42. Di Jiangzhuan glanced at the Shi Fu who was looking at him mockingly and sneered in his heart. He was indeed afraid of Wu Xingyuan, but it did not mean that he was afraid of the Shi Fu. After all, Wu Xingyuan was the number 1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. He had a unique and terrifying force, and he cultivated both the way of heaven and the sorcerer physique. He was at the middle stage of the master of heaven, and his strength was much stronger than the Shi Fu. He was confident that he had a 50% chance of winning against Wu Xingyuan, and he had a 100% chance of winning against the Shi Fu. The reason why he had not entered yet was that he was observing Feng Buming's movements. He and the Phoenix people were already mortal enemies. Feng Buming had threatened to kill him several times, and he would not rest until he was dead. He naturally did not intend to let the Phoenix people get a spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Feng Buming was very cautious. He had not chosen the ancestral sorcerer's statue yet. He knew very well how important this spot was to him and the Phoenix people. This was the last round. As long as he could stand out in this round, the spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond would be at his fingertips. This was also his last chance. He knew very well that if he couldn't even get a single spot, he might even lose his life. Therefore, he had to be cautious and cautious. Feng Buming glanced at the Shi Fu. Among the geniuses of the 10 great clans, only the Shi Fu had not entered. In other words, among the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues, 3 of them did not have the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. Feng Buming was a little worried. If he chose an ancestral sorcerer statue and the Shi Fu entered the same statue, wouldn't that be terrible? However, Feng Buming could also see that the Shi Fu was waiting for Longwen's situation. If Longwen did not move, the Shi Fu would not do anything either. Feng Buming looked coldly at Longwen. He did not want to wait any longer. In his opinion, Longwen would not be so stupid. He knew that the Shi Fu would target him, but he still dared to enter the ancestral sorcerer's statue where Feng Buming was. That was simply courting death. Feng Buming and the others had the same idea. Longwen came from a small clan after all. How powerful could he be? He could not be compared to the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. He believed that Longwen was a smart person. Thinking of this, Feng Buming chose the statue of Di Jiang. This was one of the remaining 3 statues that did not contain the top geniuses of the other top 10 clans. The Phoenix Master, Feng Lilua, who was standing in front of the square, nodded to herself after seeing Feng Buming make his choice. In Feng Lilua's opinion, as long as there were no top geniuses from the other 10 major clans, Feng Buming would definitely be able to get a spot. As for Shi Fu, he did not think that Shi Fu would choose the same witch ancestor statue as Feng Buming because there was no need. After all, Other than the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe, the remaining 9 geniuses of the top 10 tribes were enough for the geniuses of the other top 10 tribes to share. There was no need for Shifu to choose the same ancestral witch statue as Feng Buming. If he had chosen the same one, he would have become enemies with the Phoenix people. The loss outweighed the gain. When Zhuan saw that Feng Buming had entered the statue of Dijiang, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. With a kick of his right foot, he flew directly toward the statue of Dijiang. You finally moved. I thought you were going to be like a coward and not dare to go out. Shifu sneered and followed behind Zhuan. The actions of Zhuan and Shifu immediately attracted the attention of many foreign clans. After all, Zhuan's performance in the second stage was too eye-catching, and Shifu was one of the top geniuses. The actions of these 2 people had no choice but to be noticed. When Zhuan and Shifu entered the statue of Dijiang at the same time, Feng Lilua of the Phoenix people was so angry that his face turned ashen. He did not expect that Longwen would choose the statue of Dijiang where Feng Buming was and even lead Shifu in. This was definitely intentional. Even Corpse Een Marsh was startled. He naturally had no objection to Shifu dealing with Longwen and even approved of it. However, Longwen had entered the statue of Dijiang where Feng Buming was. This was going to cause trouble. Interesting. This Longwen actually chose to enter the statue of Ancestral Sorcerer where Feng Buming is. I don't know if it's intentional or not. The patriarch of the Moon Wolf clan, Itaiha, narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Qianping, who was standing beside Itaiha, sneered and mocked. This Longwen really doesn't know what's good for him. The Shifu has already targeted him and he still chose to enter the statue of Ancestral Sorcerer where Feng Buming is. A dead pig is not afraid of boiling water. The moment Yuan entered the statue of Ancestral Sorcerer, he felt that the world was spinning. Soon after, he found that his feet were stepping on a thick ground. The moment he landed on the ground, a pleasant singing voice reverberated in his ears. This voice was filled with a magnetic male voice. He raised his head and found that he was standing at the foot of a mountain. Above his head was a steep and dangerous mountain peak. This mountain peak was huge. It was definitely the largest mountain that Zhuan had seen in countless years. At the peak of the mountain, there was a heavy snowfall, covering the mountain peak with a thick layer of snow. Zhuan looked around and found that other than this mountain peak, there was nothing else. Moreover, he did not see the Shifu that had followed him into the statue of Ancestral Sorcerer. It was as if he was the only one here. Let's go up and take a look. Zhuan stepped toward the peak of the mountain. This space was very strange. His divine will couldn't extend as far as it wanted, and could only detect a very short distance. This mountain was too big. Within the range of Zhuan's divine thought, he did not see any other contestants at all. He could only continue to climb up. When Zhuan climbed halfway up the mountain, the entire mountain peak shook violently. Immediately, Zhuan saw an unprecedentedly huge figure in the sky filled with heavy snowfall. This figure was even bigger than the mountain peak. It hovered above the sky and cast a shadow that enveloped the entire mountain peak. Moreover, as this figure continued to hover, it was singing an ancient and vicissitude song. The song was pleasing to the ear and carried a sense of history that had been immersed in for a long time. It spread throughout the space where the mountain peak was located. Zhuan narrowed his eyes and finally saw the huge figure hovering in the sky. This figure was shaped like a yellow sack and was as red as fire. It had 6 legs and 4 wings and was completely without a face. It's Dijiang? No, it's not the real Dijiang. It should be an illusion of Dijiang. The moment Zhuan saw the figure clearly, he knew that this was the illusion of Ancestral Sorcerer Dijiang. Its figure was almost exactly the same as the statue of Dijiang outside. However, this illusion of Dijiang was many times larger than the statue. Zhuan knew very well that this illusion of Dijiang should be the master who had built the statue. In this space, he had set up a projection array, mainly to show the demeanor of Ancestral Sorcerer. He believed that in the other 11 Ancestral Sorcerer statues, there should be illusions of Ancestral Sorcerer like this one. Shifu, why are you here? Why did you enter the world of Dijiang's statue? Suddenly, in the distance above the mountain peak, There was a strong battle fluctuation. Then, Yuan heard Feng Buming's shocked and angry voice. "Ah, do I need your permission to choose which statue I want? Feng Buming, you think too highly of yourself." Then, Shi Fu's cold laughter was heard. Chapter 33-43. Humiliation. When Zhuan arrived at the peak of the mountain, he realized that there was a wide open space on the peak. However, under the influence of the heavy snow, the open space was covered by a thick layer of snow. It looked more like a world of ice and snow. There were 10 figures gathered on the open space. Zhuan could tell at a glance that these 10 figures were the foreign tribe geniuses who were participating in the third stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. Of course, the most obvious ones were the 2 figures standing in the middle of the open space, facing each other from afar. These 2 figures were the Phoenix People's genius, Feng Buming, and the Corpse Ghost Clan's genius, Shi Fu. The other 8 foreign tribe geniuses all retreated far away and looked at the 2 of them with fear in their eyes. These foreign tribe geniuses were all powerful to be able to make it to the third stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, no matter how powerful they were nothing in front of Feng Buming and Shi Fu, 2 monstrous geniuses. Now that these 2 geniuses were facing each other, it was an opportunity for them. After all, they had no chance of winning if they were to face these 2 geniuses head-on. However, if Shi Fu and Feng Buming were both injured, they would have a great chance of winning. Now, they only needed to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. It would not be too late for them to make a move when they fought to the death. Feng Buming's expression was ugly. At the same time, he could not understand why Shi Fu chose his wizard ancestor statue. He did not seem to have any grudges with Shi Fu. Although their realms were about the same, they were both early-stage masters of heaven. However, Feng Buming knew very well that he was much weaker than Shi Fu in terms of strength. After all, he had just become a master of heaven not long ago, while Shi Fu was already an early-stage master of heaven 1,000 years ago. Shi Fu was probably not far from the middle-stage master of heaven now. He only needed an opportunity to successfully break through. Feng Buming admitted that he was inferior to such a powerhouse. "Brother Shi Fu, you and I don't have to face each other now. It's not worth it. Weren't you staring at Longwen earlier? Why didn't you enter the wizard ancestor statue where Longwen was?" Feng Buming said helplessly. Shi Fu sneered. "I was following Longwen. Feng Buming, although you are no match for me, I don't want to fight you either. After all, you and I are both from the 10 great clans. However, that Longwen is extremely bold. He followed closely behind you after you entered the Dijiang statue. You also know that I must personally annihilate that Longwen. After all, I already have a great enmity with that bastard. Since he has entered the statue of Dijiang, you should understand why I am here." Upon hearing this, Feng Buming's pupils constricted. The fury in his eyes was as violent as a volcanic eruption. "Longwen, that bastard, he intentionally lured you here." Feng Buming was burning with anger. He did not expect that Longwen would dare to do such a thing. He must have done it on purpose. At this moment, Feng Buming was completely jealous of Longwen. "I don't care if he did it on purpose or not. My goal is to humiliate him and defeat him in my hands. After the Sorcerer Song Festival, I will personally kill this piece of trash. Then, the race behind him will be exterminated." Shi Fu's gaze was calm. He did not take Feng Buming seriously at all. This made Feng Buming feel humiliated. "Brother Shi Fu, please wait a moment. I, Feng Buming, know that if I fight with you, there is a high chance that I will lose. I admit that I am not as good as you." Feng Buming saw that Shi Fu was about to attack and quickly stopped him. "It's not that there is a high chance that you will lose, but that you will definitely lose. Feng Buming, if you surrender and commit suicide now, I won't have to eliminate you," Shi Fu said proudly. Feng Buming frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "Brother Shi Fu, that Longwen is playing with us. Moreover, he wants to reap the benefits. Are you really going to fall into his trap?" Shi Fu sneered and said, "Feng Buming, how can I not know that ant's tricks? But so what if that ant is playing tricks in front of me? After I kill you, I will kill him." the outcome will be the same. In the face of absolute strength, what is the use of that ant's tricks? It is just a last-ditch struggle. Feng Buming's face was gloomy. Shifu's contemptuous tone made him very unhappy. Brother Shifu, I admit that I am not your opponent, but it is not that easy for you to get rid of me. You may not understand what I mean. Since you were brought in by that long one, I can't take this lying down. Feng Buming said. What do you mean? Shifu stopped and looked at Feng Buming up and down. I will help you destroy that long one. After I get rid of that damned long one, we will decide the winner. Feng Buming gritted his teeth and said, that long one dared to trick him. He must take revenge personally. He did not want to let Long One get away with it. In that case, I will give you a chance. I will let you deal with that Long One. However, you must die in front of me. Shifu said. Of course. Feng Buming said with a smile. After Shifu and Feng Buming reached an agreement, they stopped fighting. They both planned to find that Long One first, get rid of him, and then decide the winner. As for the 8 foreign races hiding in the distance, when they saw that Shifu and Feng Buming had stopped fighting and had reached an agreement, their eyes revealed a look of regret. Feng Buming, Shifu, you make it sound so easy. You find me as if you can kill me, but I think it is the opposite. When you meet me, you will all run away with your tails between your legs. No, you won't even have the chance to escape. You can only be killed by me with your tails between your legs. A voice full of mockery came from afar. On the mountain rampart outside the open space, a figure landed on the open space like lightning. This person stepped on the snow without leaving a trace. In the heavy snow, he was like a spotless white lotus. Even the snowflakes could not stain his body. Long One, Shifu looked at this figure, and the murderous intent in his eyes uncontrollably surged. Feng Buming gritted his teeth as he looked at this figure, as if he wanted to skin this person alive. The 8 foreign race geniuses hiding at the side also looked at Zhuowen in surprise. They did not expect Long One to be so bold. Feng Buming and Shifu were both here, but he still dared to come over so openly. Was he here to die? Long One, you are really something. After today I, Feng Buming, will kill you on behalf of the Phoenix people. Feng Buming said coldly. Are you worthy? Zhuowen glanced at Feng Buming indifferently, but sneered disdainfully. This time he really angered Feng Buming. Shifu despised him in every way, and he accepted it. After all, it was a fact that Shifu was stronger than him. However, who was this Long One? He was just an ant from a small race. He actually put on such a high attitude and looked down on him. What was this Long One? Chapter 33-44. Violent beating. The moment Feng Buming attacked, Shifu stood motionless. He stared at Zhuowen and wanted to see how Long One would dodge Feng Buming's attack. Although he had a deep impression of Zhuowen's powerful killing of Shiyu in the guarded ground. But in his opinion, there was still a big gap between him and an early-stage master of heaven like Feng Buming. Die! Feng Buming's right hand formed a palm and slammed down. Terrifying flames covered the surface of his palm like lightning. In an instant, the surrounding temperature, which was originally cold because of the heavy snow, suddenly rose and became as hot as a furnace. The thick snow melted into water vapor on a large scale. Feng Buming had used all his strength. This move poured out most of his power, which was enough to seriously injure an early-stage master of heaven. The faces of the other foreign tribe geniuses, who were hiding at the side, changed when they saw Feng Buming's move. Their pupils shrank. They knew that Zhuowen was finished. Feng Buming's move was too terrifying. Shifu also nodded secretly. Feng Buming's move was very powerful. Even if he faced it head-on, he would have to put in some effort to resolve it. What's more, the one facing this move was Zhuowen, who he had always thought of as a nobody. Zhuowen stood in the same place, his eyes cold. He looked at Feng Buming's approaching palm wrapped in monstrous flames and sneered in his heart. It was just an ordinary punch. Before he had broken through, he had already defeated Feng Buming. Now that his Pangu sacred body had improved again, he did not take Feng Buming seriously at all. Boom! The moment the fist and palm collided, an extremely terrifying torrent burst out. A dazzling light burst out between Zhuo Wen and Feng Buming, like a rising sun, emitting light and heat to its heart's content. Feng Buming's face changed. The moment he came into contact with Zhuo Wen's fist, he felt an extremely terrifying and irresistible force surging over and filling his entire body. Feng Buming spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of the palm was completely dissolved. Feng Buming's eyes were filled with horror. He hurriedly retreated, intending to escape from the explosion. Unfortunately, a hand quickly reached out. Before Feng Buming could react, the hand grabbed his neck and lifted him in the air. Ah! Feng Buming cried out in grief and indignation. He summoned all the energy in his body, trying to break free from the hand. Unfortunately, he failed in the end. This palm seemed to have an earth-shattering power, firmly clasping his neck. He couldn't break free at all. And Feng Buming also saw the true face of this palm. How is this possible? Long Feng Buming, with great difficulty, his heart was in turbulence. Of Long Wen. At this moment, the aftermath of the battle had completely dissipated. When the remaining 8 outsiders and the corpse pups saw the scene in the middle of the battle, they were all stunned. Zhuo Wen stood at his original spot like a spear, and Feng Buming, who was still terrifying just now, was easily lifted up by Zhuo Wen with one hand. He was in an extremely sorry state and was extremely humiliated. What's with this dragon text? Did Feng Buming lose to him? Aren't you spouting nonsense? Didn't you see Feng Buming struggling in Long Wen's hands? This Long Wen really hid his strength well. His strength is actually so terrifying that even Feng Buming was beaten so badly by him. As for the 8 outsiders who were hiding far away from Zhuo Wen, they all retreated as far as they could, trying their best to get as far away from him as possible. They knew that they had underestimated Long Wen before. Who would have thought that Long Wen would be so powerful that he could take care of Feng Buming in such a short period of time? Even a corpse servant might not be able to do it. With these thoughts in mind, the 8 outsiders couldn't help but fix their eyes on the corpse pup. Shi Fu stood in place with his brows slightly furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. Shi Fu's shock was no less than that of the 8 outsiders. He had always regarded Zhuo Wen as an ant and felt that as long as he made a move, it would be more than enough to take down Zhuo Wen. But now, his thoughts were shaken because Long Wen had actually defeated Feng Buming in one move. He already had the strength of an early-stage Master of Heaven, and it was not the strength of an ordinary early-stage Master of Heaven. At least, he had the strength to fight against him. Brother Shi Fu, what are you still standing there for? This Long Wen is not simple. Let's work together to destroy him. Feng Buming saw that Shi Fu was in a daze and hurriedly shouted excitedly. Now that he was restrained by Zhuo Wen, he could not break free at all. He could only place his hopes on Shi Fu. Noisy! Zhuo Wen snorted coldly, and his right hand suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. Feng Buming screamed as this terrifying power invaded his body. Then his body exploded inch by inch. In the end, his entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and he couldn't be more dead. After killing Feng Buming, Zhuo Wen turned to look at Shi Fu and said indifferently, "It's your turn next." Shi Fu's face was gloomy. He was now full of fear for Zhuo Wen. "You're just from a small clan. Why do you have such powerful strength? You must have some unspeakable secret." "Long Wen, I've changed my mind now. After the Sorcerer Song Conference, I don't plan to kill you. Our Corpse Ghost clan won't pursue what you did before. As long as you hand over your secret, we'll automatically withdraw from this situation. Not only will you not die, but I'll also make you a dog of our Corpse Ghost clan," Shi Fu said. "Idiot! Today, not only will I kill you, but I'm also not afraid of your Corpse Ghost clan. If your Corpse Ghost clan wants to go against me, then I'll destroy your Corpse Ghost clan." After Zhuo Wen slowly finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot, leaving behind only a terrifying wave of air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Shi Fu. His right fist blasted out like lightning, carrying the power of thousands of kilograms. It was indestructible. Shi Fu's face turned ugly. He also attacked with all his strength and said coldly, "If that's the case, then you're dead." Even if you kneel and beg for mercy after this, you're still dead. Also, don't think that you're my opponent just because you killed Phone Bumming. In my eyes, Phone Bumming is just a piece of trash. It's very easy for me to kill him. Bang, bang, bang. In just an instant, Zhuowen and Shifu collided. Terrifying explosions continued to explode around the two of them. After more than 10 rounds, Shifu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Zhuowen floated in the air and looked down at Shifu, who was struggling on the ground. After the Pangu's sacred body was promoted, his physical strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. After all, his sacred body had already peeked into the mysteries of the 8 stars. His strength had increased significantly. Chapter 33:45. The Might of the Divine Soul Sword Intent. Phone Bumming is indeed a good-for-nothing, and you're just a good-for-nothing who's slightly stronger than Phone Bumming. You're just two good-for-nothings. Do you think you're great to be gossiping behind my back? Zhuowen floated in midair and looked down at Shifu from above. His voice was as loud as muffled thunder. Shifu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to stand up. He raised his head and looked at Zhuowen in horror, but his expression became very ugly. He knew that he had underestimated Longwen. With the powerful strength that Longwen displayed just now, he could probably compete with Wu Xingyuan. Especially Zhuowen's words just now, it was like a needle piercing his heart, causing him unbearable pain and grief. Longwen, I've underestimated you. I really didn't expect your strength to be so amazing. But I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to defeat me. Shifu's eyes were cold, and the black gas around him suddenly swept out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Then, 9 black figures rushed out from the black gas and surrounded Zhuowen in an instant. Zhuowen looked carefully and found that these 9 black shadows were actually 9 pitch-black skulls. Each skull was only the size of a fist. Especially the empty eyes of these skulls, they seemed to be staring at him, looking extremely strange. 9 skulls encirclement. Shifu's voice was sharp. He formed a seal with both hands and bit the tip of his tongue at the same time, spitting on the 9 skulls. Suddenly, the aura of the 9 skulls became exceptionally powerful and terrifying. Endless black gas surged out like a wave, as if it had turned into a black cloud sea. Zhuowen could feel an unparalleled killing intent within the sea of black clouds. He knew that this should be Shifu's final trump card. Its power was very impressive. Even Zhuowen revealed a solemn expression. On the other hand, after Shifu spat out the blood essence, his face was extremely pale, like the face of a dead person. Obviously, the price Shifu paid to use this move should be extremely high. Longwen, you can use this move before me, so you can be considered to have died a worthy death. The corpse pup's voice was as sharp as a malicious spirit's as it let out a hideous laugh. This 9 skulls encirclement was a terrifying secret technique that he had to expend a large amount of blood essence to activate. In the past, he had relied on this secret art to severely injure a mid-stage heaven-reaching master. Although he was only a mid-stage Empyrean Lord, he was still a mid-stage Empyrean Lord. He was much stronger than an early-stage Empyrean Lord. From this, one could see how terrifying Shifu's secret technique was. The expressions of the other 8 outsider geniuses, who were watching from afar, changed drastically the moment Shifu used the 9 skeleton siege. They had all heard of Shifu's trump card and knew how terrifying it was. As far as they were concerned, even if this move couldn't destroy Longwen, it would definitely be able to heavily injure him. Boom, boom. The 9 skulls let out ear-piercing screeches and immediately rushed over from 9 different directions. In an instant, they exploded on Zhuowen's body. Countless black chi spread out, blocking his line of sight. He could only hear the terrifying and sharp explosions inside. Puchi. Shifu fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. However, his expression was quite relaxed. He was confident that this 9 skulls encirclement would definitely be able to kill Zhuowen. This was because his secret technique had never failed before. Boom. The fluctuations of the 9 skulls encirclement soon dissipated, but an indifferent voice came from mid-air. Shifu, is this your trump card? It's just so. Sherpu suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhuan, who was in mid-air, in disbelief. He saw that Zhuan's body was surrounded by a dazzling white light. This white light was like a protective shield that enveloped Zhuan's body, forming a powerful defense. Although there were many cracks on the surface of this white light, Zhuan did not suffer any damage. Most of the damage was blocked by this white light that covered the surface of his body. The moment the 9 skulls encirclement completely erupted, Zhuan used the profound light of creation. The 5 profound meanings that he had mastered were the most compatible with the Pangu sacred body. As the realm of his Pangu sacred body increased, the power of the 5 profound meanings also increased. His Pangu sacred body was already invincible and had an amazing defense. In addition to the terrifying defensive power of the profound light of creation, Yun was able to withstand the full-force attack of a middle-stage Tongtian master, let alone Sherpu's desperate attack. This is impossible. You're completely fine. Sherpu screamed and was on the verge of collapse. This was his best trump card. It had once severely injured a middle-stage Tongtian master, but this guy had actually blocked it. At this moment, Sherpu's confidence completely collapsed, and he even became afraid. He realized that Long Wen's strength was much stronger than his. This thought made him crazy, and he did not want to believe it at all. Bang! Zhuo leaped down and stomped the corpse beneath his feet. After Sherpu used the 9 skulls encirclement, he had almost exhausted all of his energy. At this moment, he was almost powerless to resist. Long Wen, it's useless for you to kill me here. After I die, I'll immediately be resurrected in the outside world. At that time, the Ghoul clan will not let you go. They'll definitely hunt you down and kill you. What's the use of being strong? No matter how strong you are, can you compete with our Ghoul clan? Sherpu shouted crazily. Just because of what you said, you'll die here. You won't have a chance to get out alive. Zhuo sneered. What kind of joke is this? It's impossible to really die here. Sherpu sneered. You're right. In this world, before you die, it will protect your divine soul and teleport your divine soul out. Our physical bodies are automatically formed by this world. Destroying your physical body naturally won't kill you. However, before your divine soul transmits, destroying your divine soul, you're naturally dead for sure too. Zhuo said coolly. Sherpu shuddered and immediately laughed. Destroy my divine soul? Longwen, you're thinking too much. This world has rules. When my divine soul is damaged, my divine soul will immediately be teleported away. You can at most injure my divine soul a little. You can't destroy it at all. Ordinary methods indeed can't do it. But an attack targeting the divine soul is sufficient. As Zhuan said, he stirred up the divine soul sword intent that had already condensed into a sword inside his divine soul. The instant Sherpu became absent-minded, the divine soul sword intent suddenly swept out from between Zhuowen's brows, turning into a formless and immaterial sword intent, instantly rushing into the depths of Sherpu's glabella. Before his glabella reacted, he only felt his divine soul turn into a mass of paste, and could not help crying out miserably. At the instant Sherpu's divine soul was wantonly destroyed, one could clearly feel that inside this world, there was a force wrapping Sherpu's divine soul and teleporting it away. But Zhuan was not worried. His divine soul sword intent was too powerful. Furthermore, it already entered the interior of Sherpu's divine soul. Chapter 3346. The result: the moment Hun killed Sherfu, the 8 foreign tribe geniuses who were watching at the edge of the snowy ground shuddered. They looked at Zhuan with fear in their eyes. Do the 8 of you want to fight me as well? Zhuan turned around and looked at the 8 foreign tribe geniuses who were filled with fear as he asked calmly. The 8 foreign tribe geniuses looked at each other and knelt down on one knee to show that they had surrendered. Kill yourselves. Save me the trouble. Zhuan placed his hands behind his back and said calmly. The 8 foreign tribe geniuses sighed and chose to kill themselves. Long Wen had even killed geniuses like Feng Buming and Sherfu. Even if they joined forces, their chances of winning were slim. They might as well kill themselves to avoid the humiliation. After the 8 foreign tribe geniuses killed themselves and disappeared into the snowy ground, Un was not taken away from the space. Instead, Di Zhang's voice became louder and louder in the sky. It was getting closer and closer. Zhuowen raised his head abruptly, only to see the enormous illusory figure of the Dijiang swooping down and enveloping Zhuowen in an instant. The 12 witch ancestor statues in the guarded ground would emit white light from time to time, and foreign tribe geniuses would be teleported out. The foreign tribe geniuses who were teleported out were basically eliminated. Suddenly, after the last ray of white light flashed out from the candle dragon statue, a loud and clear roar of a strange beast rang out. It shook the heavens and the earth, causing the entire world to shake. Then, an enormous figure shot out from the candle dragon statue and charged into the sky. All the foreign tribe geniuses in the guarded ground were shocked. When they saw the figure, they were almost shocked. The real face of the figure was the real body of the witch ancestor, the candle dragon. A huge candle dragon was floating in the sky. It can't be. Did the witch ancestor come back to life? How is that possible? No, this is not the real candle dragon. It should be the candle dragon's shadow. Look, there's a figure standing on the illusionary figure of the candle dragon. That's Wu Xingyuan of the sorcerer tribe. Many alien races were frightened. However, they soon realized that Wu Xingyuan was standing proudly with his hands behind his back on the candle dragon's shadow. In the world of the ancestral sorcerer statue, defeating all the competitors will trigger the ancestral sorcerer's apparition, which will then appear in the guarded ground. Looks like Xingyuan has taken the lead in dealing with all his competitors. Wu Wuxian looked at the Wu Xingyuan on the candle dragon's shadow with a gratified expression. His slightly aged voice then sounded and explained this phenomenon to everyone. Everyone revealed a relieved expression. It seemed that the appearance of the ancestral sorcerer's shadow meant that someone had won. Not long after Wu Xingyuan appeared, the other 2 ancestral wizard statues also showed signs of abnormalities. Their respective ancestral wizard phantoms flew out. Standing on each of the 2 ancestral shaman silhouettes were the 9-tailed fox clan's genius, Wu Qiutong, and the moon wolf clan's genius, Tu Qian. Senior Tu Qian has advanced. He has obtained one of the 12 slots. Qian Ping, who was in the Moon Wolf clan's team, shouted excitedly. The Moon Wolf clan leader, Yi Taihe, also smiled with gratification. Tu Qian was a junior that he had high hopes for. His strength and talent were extremely powerful. Although he was not as strong as Wu Xingyuan, he was not much weaker than Shifu from the Corpse Spirit clan. It was difficult for him to find a worthy opponent in the initial stage of the Master Tongtian realm. The fact that Tu Qian could come out so quickly made Yi Taihe quite happy. Not long after Wu Qiutong and Tu Qian came out, the other ancestral wizard statues had also finished their battles. The victors rode on the ancestral sorcerer's shadow and appeared in the sky above the statues, looking down at all the alien races in the guarded ground. Soon, 10 geniuses had finished their battles. These 10 geniuses were all geniuses from the 10 great tribes. It was worth mentioning that among the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe, other than Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin had also obtained slots. They each stood on the ancestral sorcerer's shadow and looked down at the guarded ground. Among them, the most eye-catching one was Jingshan, the alien race genius from a small tribe. She had actually obtained one of the slots. The genius from the 10 great tribes that was eliminated by Jingshan was the genius from the Merman tribe, Jiaosha. When the 11th victor was revealed, all of the foreign races were shocked. This was because the 11th victor was still not a genius from one of the top 10 races. Instead, it was a genius from a small race. And this genius from a small race seemed to be called Purple Star. Many people knew that Zixing had a good relationship with Longwen. However, many of the alien races felt that Zixing was quite lucky. As Feng Buming and Shifu, the 2 geniuses from the 10 great tribes, had entered Dijiang's statue, there were no geniuses from the 10 great tribes in the ancestral sorcerer's statue that Ziwei Star entered. After the 11th winner was announced, all the alien race's attention fell on Dijiang's statue. They all knew that there were 2 geniuses from the 10 great tribes in Dijiang's statue. They were Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people and Shi Fu from the Corpse School tribe. Other than that, there was also Long Wen, who had made a name for himself in the second stage. They all wanted to know who would obtain the last slot. However, most of the alien races below unanimously believed that Shi Fu from the Corpse School tribe would have the last laugh. Feng Lilua from the Phoenix people was very anxious. She hated Long Wen to the core. He actually chose Dijiang's statue where Feng Bumming was and led Shi Fu inside. Phoenix Master, you don't have to do this. Bumming's strength is not weak. He might not lose to Shi Fu. Grand Elder Mu Yu could not help but persuade Feng Lilua when she saw that Feng Lilua was anxious. Feng Lilua shook her head and said, Mu Yu, it's not like you don't know how powerful Shi Fu is. He dared to compete with Wu Xingyuan in the past, and he was already a Skirich Master 1,000 years ago. Bumming has only been promoted to Skirich Master for half a year. How could he be a match for Shi Fu? Mu Yu fell silent. She was just trying to comfort Feng Lilua. She naturally knew how powerful Shi Fu was. It was not something that Feng Bumming could compare to. However, she still had some hope in her heart. Perhaps Feng Bumming would join forces with the other alien race geniuses to besiege Shi Fu. Then Feng Bumming would have a chance to defeat Shi Fu. It's all because of that damned Long Wen. After the Sorcerer Song Conference ends, we must tear Long Wen into pieces. Third Elder and Yen snorted coldly. Long Wen will definitely not let him go. Feng Lilua said. At that moment, a teleportation light appeared in Dijiang's statue, and it immediately attracted the attention of many alien races. They realized that it seemed to be the first time the teleportation light appeared in Dijiang's statue. In other words, in the other statue worlds, the first person had just been eliminated in Dijiang's statue. This made many alien races feel that it was strange and unbelievable. When the light of the teleportation gradually faded, the figure that was revealed caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Because the first person to be eliminated in Dijiang's statue was the Phoenix people's genius, Feng Bumming. Creek. Chapter 3347. Shi Fu's death. After seeing Feng Lilua being eliminated, none of the foreign races were too surprised. Shi Fu was too powerful. In their expectations, they thought that Feng Bumming was no match for Shi Fu. If they were to be eliminated, there was a high chance that Feng Bumming would be eliminated. The current situation was indeed similar to what they had guessed. It seems that the final winner of the Dijiang statue will be Shi Fu from the Corpse School clan. Actually, the moment Shi Fu entered the Dijiang statue, the victory was already decided. It's a pity for Feng Bumming. He also had a high chance of getting a spot, but he was screwed over by Long Wen. Long Wen is finished. The Phoenix people and the Corpse School clan won't let him go. After this shaman song gathering ends, I think he'll be dead for sure. How Long Wen is an idiot. He's just a small clan, but he dares to provoke the Corpse School clan and the Phoenix people. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Many of the foreign races discussed animatedly. Their words could be said to be extremely belittling of Long Wen. The patriarch of the Corpse School clan, Shi Marsh, even smiled. The moment Feng Bumming came out, he knew that Shi Fu would definitely win. Feng Bumming must have been killed by Shi Fu. As for Long Wen, Shi Marsh had never taken him seriously. Long Wen was destined to be eliminated by Shi Fu. After this, the Corpse School clan would capture Long Wen and make him suffer a fate worse than death. How dare he kill a genius of the Corpse School clan? He must be tired of living. Feng Bumming's face was slightly pale. He lowered his head and returned to the Phoenix people's group. He immediately knelt in front of Feng Lilua and said, Bumming has disappointed the Phoenix Master. I'm willing to accept the punishment. Feng Lilua looked coldly at Feng Bumming. He had already calmed down. With his hands behind his back, he said coldly, I don't blame you. I can only blame Long Wen. He lured Shi Fu into the Dijiang statue. Although you've already advanced to the Master of Heaven, the gap between you and Shi Fu is still not small. It's understandable that you lost to Shi Fu. Feng Bumming wanted to say that he was defeated by Long Wen, but he held himself back. He knew very well that if he were to truly say that Long Wen had defeated him, Feng Liluo would not be so easy to deal with. Perhaps she would become enraged and kill him on the spot. In order to save his life, Feng Buming remained silent and did not intend to tell the truth. Get up and come back to me. Once the Sorcerer Song conference is over, we'll go back. But before returning, he must capture that Long Wen. This kid ruined our plans. We must make him regret it. Feng Liluo said ruthlessly. Feng Buming stood beside Feng Liluo and looked gloomily at the statue of Di Jiang. Long Wen's strength is very strong. He somewhat doubts whether the corpse pup can take down Long Wen. How laughable! After all, Shi Fu is a nearly invincible existence in the early stage of Lord All-Heaven. Even though Long Wen can easily defeat me, it's not very possible for him to defeat Shi Fu. This time, Shi Fu will definitely be able to get rid of Long Wen. Feng Buming secretly said in his heart. Just as Feng Buming was thinking about that, another teleportation light appeared on Di Jiang's statue. Among the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues, only Di Jiang's statue had yet to end the battle. Therefore, any changes to Di Jiang's statue were closely watched by many foreign races. Corpse Ghoul races Corpse Inhuan, Phoenix peoples Feng Liluo, and the other leaders of the 10 major races could not help but pay attention to the second figure that came out. The moment the second figure came out, the entire guarded ground fell silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Then the entire guarded ground was in an uproar. The clamors surged like a tide. This was because the second figure was none other than Shi Fu, who everyone had placed their hopes on to win. At this moment, Shi Fu's face was very ugly. He was extremely pale as he held his head with both hands and screamed miserably. In front of his forehead, cold sweat fell like rain, patter 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 to the ground. No, Shi Fu held his head and screamed miserably. Then his head suddenly exploded. A terrifying intense soared into the sky and quickly dissipated in the air. Bang! Shi Fu fell to the ground and became a headless corpse. He was completely dead. This unforeseen event completely shocked all the foreign races. The faces of the other 11 geniuses from the ancestral sorcerer statues also froze. They looked at the fallen Shi Fu with solemn eyes. Their hearts were filled with doubts. Wu Xingyuan opened his eyes. He looked at Shi Fu's corpse and frowned. His gaze was very complicated and doubtful. What's going on? Is Shi Fu dead? Feng Buming was stunned. Feng Liluo and the other Phoenix people were also stunned. What happened in front of them was simply too illogical. The Corpse Ghoul Race's team was in an uproar. Their leader, Shi Inhuan's face completely froze. A terrifying murderous intent exploded from Shi Inhuan's body. Then, Shi Inhuan disappeared on the spot and appeared beside Shi Fu's corpse. Who is it? Who killed Shi Fu? Shi Inhuan almost lost his mind. He raised his head and looked at Wu Wuxian. He questioned, High Priest, you have to give me an explanation. Didn't you say that it's impossible to truly die in the world of the ancestral sorcerer statues? But what's going on here? How did Shi Fu die? Wu Wuxian frowned slightly. She also felt that it was a little strange. In the world of the ancestral sorcerer statues, once a contestant is killed, their divine soul will immediately be protected and teleported out. Generally speaking, it's impossible to die. Unless someone is good at divine soul attacks. They used a powerful divine soul to wipe out Shi Fu's divine soul. That's why Shi Fu died in the end. Wu Wuxian recalled the terrifying sword essence that soared into the sky after Shi Fu's head exploded before he died. She was sure that it was a divine soul attack technique. This kind of secret technique was too rare. There were only a few in the entire primitive heavenly realm. She was surprised to see it here. Who could it be? To be able to use such a powerful divine soul attack technique? Could it be that Long Wen? Wu Wuxian thought of Long Wen, but soon felt that her idea was unrealistic. Long Wen was only from a small clan. How could he have such a secret technique? How dare he kill Shi Fu? I'll make the murderer pay the price. High Priest, if I find the real murderer, I'll kill him. Don't stop me. Corpse Inma said fiercely. Wu Wuxian said coldly, the Sorcerer Song gathering hasn't ended yet. You can't do it. If you insist on doing it, you'll be going against the sorcerer tribe. After the sorcerer song gathering, I won't care about your personal grudges. Corpse Inma's heart trembled. He finally regained his composure. He cupped his hands at Wu Wuxian and returned to the Corpse Ghoul tribe's team with Shifu's body. However, Corpse Inma's gaze was fixed on Di Zhang's statue. He was sure that the winner of Di Zhang's statue should be the real murderer who killed Shifu. After the sorcerer song gathering ended, he would make the real murderer pay a heavy price. As for the surrounding foreign tribes, they were completely agitated. Many of them were guessing who had killed the Shifu, and who had such great ability. Bussing, what's going on? Feng Lua asked sternly. Feng Bussing shuddered and said in a trembling voice, that Shifu should have been killed by Long Wen. In fact, I was also eliminated by Long Wen. Only Long Wen can kill Shifu. At this moment, Feng Bussing's heart still had lingering fear. He had not expected to be killed in the ancestral sorcerer statue world. If Long Wen had dealt with him the same way he dealt with Shifu, he would have been a corpse by now. Chapter 3348. Memorize 69 books in 1 second. There are no pop-up windows, it's free to read. Killing intent. Feng Lilua's abnormality was not noticed by the other foreign races because their attention was all on Di Zhang's statue. Feng Bumming had been eliminated, and Shifu had been killed. The most powerful competitors in Di Zhang's statue were all eliminated. Who would be the winner in Di Zhang's statue? All the foreign races were looking forward to finding out who the winner was. Feng Lilua regained her composure and said in a deep voice, "Bumming, is that true?" Feng Bumming's eyes flickered and he sighed softly. Since Long Wen has the strength to eliminate me, he must be very powerful. He's definitely one of the best in Di Zhang's statue. Other than him, I really can't think of anyone else. I really didn't expect that Long Wen, who's from a small clan, could actually defeat Bumming and Shifu, two great geniuses. The secret of this boy must be beyond our imagination. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to cultivate such powerful strength with just a small clan background, Grand Elder Muyu said in a deep voice. We can't underestimate Long Wen. After the sorcerer song gathering ends, we shouldn't act rashly. We just need to watch the show slowly. This boy has offended the Corpse Ghoul clan. The Corpse Yin swamp will find him sooner or later. At that time, we'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. We'll see what kind of powerful trump card Long Wen has. Then, we'll look for an opportunity to take down Long Wen completely and be the fisherman. Feng Lilua said indifferently. The Grand Elder and Third Elder looked at each other, then they cupped their hands at Feng Lilua and nodded in agreement. Soon, 8 figures were sent out one after another from Di Zhang's statue. These 8 figures were all geniuses from large clans. At that moment, they all lowered their heads and returned to their respective teams. At the same time, the news of Long Wen defeating Feng Bumming and Shifu and obtaining the final victory spread among the foreign races. The news came from the mouths of the 8 geniuses from large clans who were sent out, so it should be true. This piece of news had all of the foreign races startled. They also did not expect that the final victor would actually be Long Wen. In other words, Shifu's death was caused by Long Wen. Long Wen, you're dead for sure. First, you killed my Corpse Ghoul clan's Corpse Yu, and now you've even killed Shifu. If I, Corpse Yin Marsh, don't kill you, then I'm not worthy of being the patriarch of the Corpse Ghoul clan. Corpse Inma's eyes were cold as he declared that anyone who got close to Long Wen would be the enemy of his Corpse Ghost clan. The Corpse Ghost clan would spare no effort to kill any enemy that threatened them. These words were obviously very intimidating. Many foreign races didn't dare to get close to Long Wen. After all, if they did, they would be going against a colossus like the Corpse Ghost clan. Boom! Suddenly, Di Zhang's statue began to shake violently. Soon after, an incomparably huge illusory figure of Di Zhang shot out from the statue and hovered in the air. Everyone's gazes were fixated on the illusory figure of Di Zhang. There, a figure stood upright like a long spear, looking down at the foreign race beings of the guarded ground. This figure was familiar to all of the alien races. It was Long Wen, who had caused such a huge commotion. Corpse Ian Marsh looked at Long Wen coldly, but he didn't make a move. He knew that the time wasn't ripe yet. After all, the shaman song gathering hadn't started yet. Moreover, he had his own plans. Long Wen had obtained one of the 12 quotas, so he had the right to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond and receive the baptism of the ancestral sorcerer's power. The ancestral sorcerer's power was extremely important to the foreign races of the primitive heavenly realm. Not only could it increase one's cultivation realm, but it could also increase one's aptitude and talent. It could even cleanse one's muscles and marrow, allowing one's physical body to undergo a metamorphosis. Corpse Ian Marsh planned to wait for Long Wen to absorb the power of the ancestral sorcerer, then capture it and use a secret method to refine it into medicine. He would then consume it directly to improve his cultivation and strength. It could be considered as revenge for the Shifu, and he would also get a good return. It's really Long Wen. We can't let him live. Feng Lilua's expression was ugly as she said angrily. He always felt that the dragon text must have chosen the statue where Feng Bumming was on purpose. The dragon text was targeting the Phoenix clan. Thinking of this, Feng Lilua was burning with anger. With Feng Bumming's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to obtain one of the quotas. However, it was all ruined by Long Wen. She was filled with hatred. This kid is really stronger than I expected. The Moon Wolf clan leader, Itaiha, was also extremely surprised. As for Qian Ping, who was standing beside Itaiha, a complicated look appeared in her beautiful eyes. She had never expected that the country bumpkin she had mentioned before would obtain a quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Moreover, this time, Long Wen didn't obtain it by luck, but by strength. After all, Long Wen had defeated Feng Bumming and Shifu. She had nothing to say about this. This country bumpkin has some strength. However, compared to senior brother Tu Qian, he's still lacking. Qian Ping pursed her lips and muttered to herself. Her voice was very soft, and she seemed to lack confidence. Zhuan stepped on the illusory image of Di Jiang and looked around. He found that the remaining 11 quotas had been decided. The 11 quotas were Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiaoran, Wu Wenbin, Tu Qian from the Moon Wolf clan, Wu Qiutong from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Xiao Kong from the Space-Time Beast clan, Xiang Gui from the Giant Turtle clan, Long Hui from the Dragon clan, Hu Teng from the Black Tiger clan, Crepe Star Sovereign and Jingshan. He nodded slightly at Crepe Star Sovereign and Jingshan, then stood quietly on the spot. He knew that he had successfully obtained a quota. Next, he would enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Wu Wuxian took a deep look at Zhuan. She now suspected that Long Wen might have an extremely powerful spiritual attack technique. Previously, when Shifu's spiritual soul was shattered and his head was broken, the terrifying sword essence that was produced was still fresh in her memory. She was sure that Zhuan's spiritual attack technique was more powerful than any spiritual attack technique she had ever seen. Thinking of this, Wu Wuxian was a little tempted. Long Wen was just a small clan, but he had such a strong foundation. He must have obtained an extremely powerful inheritance. This inheritance was definitely not ordinary. It would be a waste for it to fall into Long Wen's hands. Although Wu Wuxian thought so, she was not in a hurry. Long Wen had offended too many people. She did not need to do anything. Naturally, someone else would. At that time, she only needed to play the role of Long Wen's savior. When the time came, she would use her kindness to threaten Long Wen. She did not believe that Long Wen would not hand over his secrets. Therefore, Wu Wuxian was not in a hurry. Congratulations to the 12 of you for obtaining a quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Wu Wuxian said faintly. As soon as she said this, the foreign tribe geniuses standing around the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues were all excited. However, the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond will only open in 3 days. Everyone can gather here in 3 days. After saying this, Wu Wuxian returned to the main hall of the sorcerer tribe. Zhuan frowned and could not help but look at Jingshan. Back then, Jingshan had said that after the Sorcerer's Song Festival ended, they could immediately enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Why was it different now? When Zhuan saw the confused expression on Jingshan's face, his heart sank. He knew that Jingshan should not have known that this would happen. The moment Wu Wuxian left, Juan immediately sensed that several malicious gazes fell on him. Chapter 3349. Memorize 69 books in 1 second. No pop-up windows, free to read. Getting restless in the guarded ground, most of the foreign tribes followed their respective teams and left the inner city. After all, the inner city was the core of the sorcerer tribe. If not for the sorcerer song gathering, even the big shots of the top 10 tribes would not be able to enter the inner city. Other than the disciples of the sorcerer tribe, the other tribes were not allowed to stay in the inner city for the next 3 days. They could only stay in the outer city. Even the top 10 tribes were not allowed to stay. Brother Long, be careful. The Phoenix people and the Corpse Ghoul tribe have their eyes on you. Other than that, there are other tribes in the dark who are eager to take action against you. I'll make a move first. After sending a message to Zhuowen, Jing Shan left the inner city quietly and disappeared. Zhuowen's face darkened as he sighed. He did not blame Jing Shan for leaving so quickly. He also knew that he and Jing Shan only had an ordinary cooperative relationship. It was impossible for Jing Shan to bear the risks with him. Brother Zhua, it seems like we're being watched. Crepe Star-Lord came to Zhuowen's side and said with a dark look. I know. Let's leave the inner city first. Zhuowen said helplessly as he looked at the disciples of the sorcerer tribe who wanted to chase them away. Zhuowen and Crepe Star-Lord had just walked out of the inner city when they realized that there were many foreign tribes following them. Zhuowen's mind power was extremely strong. He scanned the area and realized that there were other tribes besides the Phoenix people and the Corpse Ghoul tribe. Zhuowen did not care about the foreign tribes following them. Instead, he brought Crepe Star-Lord to a small inn in the outer city. At the counter of the inn, Zhuowen placed a storage bag on the counter and said to the innkeeper, Innkeeper, I'm buying this inn. The innkeeper wanted to reject Su Mo's offer. However, when he saw the large number of heavenly origin crystals in the storage bag, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Hee, esteemed guest, this inn is yours from now on. The innkeeper kept the storage bag and said with a flattering smile, Clear out all the guests in your inn, and I'll pay for your losses, Zhuowen continued. The shopkeeper hurriedly responded and moved swiftly. Soon, all the guests in the inn were cleared out. Although many guests were very dissatisfied, the shopkeeper had a group of powerful fighters under him. These guests did not dare to make a big deal out of it, so they could only swallow their anger and leave the inn. In less than 2 hours, the inn had already been emptied. The shopkeeper also took the initiative to leave with a group of hired thugs. Brother Zhua, what are you? Purple Star Sovereign said in surprise. Brother Ziwei, I plan to set up a peerless formation outside this inn. If no one provokes me in these 3 days, then it's fine. But if anyone dares to provoke me, then I, am not a pushover. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he spoke coldly. Crepe Myrtle Star Assembly shivered. He knew that Zhuowen was serious. He knew very well that with Zhuowen's level of formation skills, there were not many foreign race experts in the outer city who could invade this inn. Next, Zhuowen spent half a day setting up the 12 Heavenly Deities Slaughter Grand Formation, the 10-Directional Cloud Annihilation Grand Formation, the Heavenly Toad Limitless Grand Formation, and the Qingyuan Imperial Formation in the surroundings of the inn. Of these 4 formations, the first 3 were all heaven-piercing killing formations, and the 4th was a heaven-piercing defensive formation. These 4 heaven-piercing formations were all set up by Zhuowen in the past, and he had already learned them. Now, it was naturally much easier for him to set them up than before, and the speed of setting them up was also much faster. Zhuowen looked at the 4 formations around him, his eyes flashing. These 4 heaven-piercing formations complemented each other, and their power was unparalleled. If an expert in the late stage of heaven-piercing master broke into these 4 formations, he would not be able to escape. At that time, he would only be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. After Zhuowen finished setting up the large arrays, he dispersed the 4 large arrays. Then he refined an array flag and placed it in the Great World. This formation flag was the key to activating the 4 formations. As long as he activated the formation flag, the 4 formations would immediately be activated, and any living creatures within the formations would be killed. After doing all this, Zhuan set up a concealment formation on the surface of the 4 formations. Then he entered the inn, chose a room at random, and began to meditate cross-legged. He planned to use these 3 days to completely condense the spirit sword essence that he had just separated. Moreover, in order to kill the Shifu, he used a spirit sword essence. Now, there was only one spirit sword essence left in his spirit that had not yet taken shape. The power of the spirit sword essence was somewhat beyond Zhuowen's expectations. In any case, the Shifu was an expert who was about to enter the middle stage of heaven-piercing master, but he was actually killed in an instant by the spirit sword essence. Zhuowen's current limit was to condense 2 spirit sword essences. After all, the sword chi contained in the spirit sword essence was too terrifying. 2 spirit sword essences was a number that Zhuowen's spirit could barely bear. After he completely condensed this spirit sword essence, he planned to separate another spirit sword essence, so that his spirit would maintain the number of 2 spirit sword essences. When Zhuan entered the inn to cultivate in seclusion, the various clans that came out of the inner city did not leave Witch God City. Instead, they were discussing something. This Long One is quite bold. He knew that we had followed him, but he did not leave Witch God City directly. Instead, he found an inn and stayed there directly. Truly a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger. In the room, Feng Lilua sneered as she read the news reported by her subordinates. Phoenix Master, do you want me to directly remove this Long One? Grand Elder Muyu asked in a deep voice. Now is not the time to make a move. It is not only us, the Phoenix people, who have their eyes on Long Wen. The other 10 clans, even the witch race, have their eyes on Long Wen as well. That Long One will definitely die, but we have to make a good plan. How can we stand out among the many covetous people and obtain the greatest benefits? Feng Lilua shook her head. Then we won't make a move first? Feng Bumming asked. Yes. Let's not make a move first and see what the other clans do. We'll act according to the circumstances. Feng Lilua nodded. In the inn where the corpse race was located, Corpse Ian Marsh said to his subordinate who was kneeling on the ground, "When will the Vice-Patriarch return?" This subordinate has received news that the Vice-Patriarch will arrive at Witch God City in 1 day. He is now rushing at full speed. The subordinate who was kneeling on the ground said respectfully, "After the Vice-Patriarch arrives, go directly to the inn where Long Wen is and kidnap him without anyone noticing. Remember, I want him alive." Corpse Ian Marsh said indifferently. The subordinate hurriedly nodded and left the room. Long One, I asked the Vice-Patriarch to personally capture you. It can be said that I think highly of you. Who asked you to offend our corpse race? After all, once you offend the corpse race, we will fight to the death. You can't escape from the palm of my hand. Corpse Ian Marsh said coldly. Not only the corpse race and the Phoenix people, but many other clans in Witch God City were also restless. And the source of all the restlessness was Zhun. If the current situation in Witch God City was compared to a storm, then the place where Zhun was at was the source of the storm, which was also the eye of the storm. All the clan's actions were because of Zhun, the eye of the storm. Chapter 3350. The initiator inside the room of the inn, Zhuowen slowly stood up. His eyes abruptly opened, and an intense chill flickered within them. Within the range of his divine telekinesis, there were dozens of figures sneaking up on his inn. All of them were up to no good. Zhuowen also found that within the range of his divine telekinesis, there were subtle energy fluctuations. He knew that there should be more people hiding in the distance and could attack at any time. Crepe Star Sovereign pushed the door open and entered. He looked at Zhuowen and said solemnly, "Brother Zhuowen, you were right. There are people who can't hold back on the first day. Are we going to fight?" "No need. If we fight in Sorcerer God City, regardless of whether we take the initiative or not, we will be accused of breaking the rules of Sorcerer God City and attacking in private. We will not be able to escape punishment. Wu Wuxian of the Sorcerer Tribe only needs an excuse to take us down. If she finds this excuse, we will be guilty even if we are innocent. When the time comes, Wu Wuxian will definitely take us down immediately, Zhuan said in a low voice. Then you mean? Crepe Star Sovereign frowned and said hesitantly. I have set up 4 large formations in the inn. 3 of them are killing formations and the other one is a defense formation. I will activate the defense formation and wait for 3 days. After 3 days, we will be able to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. When my cultivation has improved greatly in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, I will not be afraid of even the high priest of the sorcerer tribe. Zhuan said. Crepe Myrtle Star nodded. Although he was surprised by Zhuo Wen's confidence, he also knew that it was not a wise decision to fight with these restless enemies who were hiding in the dark. Brother Crepe Star Sovereign, help me pay attention to all the invaders tonight and record which tribes they are from. I want to see which outsider clans are targeting me and trying to kill me. Zhuo Wen said with a cold look in his eyes. Swoosh, swoosh. Several figures flashed across the sky like black lightning and soon landed not far away from the inn Zhuan was staying at. These figures were all in disguise. Clearly, they didn't want to be recognized by the other outsiders or Zhuan. Boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks rained down on the inn like a meteor shower. That power was extremely vast. It was as if a 7-colored light had exploded. In the pitch-black night, it was like a blazing sun, dazzling and gorgeous. This noise startled many non-humankind beings in the surrounding area, who quickly fled from the area. The reason for that was because that attack was simply too frightening. The aftermath of the explosion was like a tide as it spread through the surroundings. The nearby buildings were all destroyed and turned into ruins. Some of the non-humankind beings who weren't strong enough and didn't react fast enough didn't even have the chance to scream before they were blown up into blood mist and dissipated in the air. They couldn't be more dead. It was obvious that such a powerful attack had been planned for a long time. There must be experts at the level of Master Heaven Ascension mixed in. Otherwise, this joint attack wouldn't be so fierce. Crackle. Originally, many of the non-humankind beings thought that the inn Zhuan was staying at would definitely be reduced to ashes. Even Zhuowen, who was in the inn, would die under such an attack. However, everyone was surprised to find that the inn wasn't destroyed as they had expected. Instead, it was completely undamaged. This was because a light blue protective shield had appeared on the surface of the inn. It's a Master Heaven defensive formation. How many treasures does Longwen have? He even has a formation of this level. Damn it. An exasperated voice came from the darkness. Clearly, one of the ambushers hadn't expected that Zhuowen's residence would have such a powerful formation. Seeing that their attack didn't succeed, these figures didn't dare to stay any longer and left the place. They weren't afraid of Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star in the inn, but they were afraid of the rules of Sorcerer God City. After all, there were clear rules in Sorcerer God City that no one could attack without permission, let alone destroy wantonly. If someone violated the rules, they would be pursued by the experts of the Sorcerer tribe. In serious cases, they would even be killed without mercy. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star stood side by side at the entrance of the inn. Their gazes were extremely cold. Neither of them were ordinary cultivators. Zhuowen's divine thought was originally stronger than that of ordinary cultivators, and Crepe Myrtle Star had obtained the inheritance of the undying bird. His strength was earth-shattering. In just a few breaths, the two of them quickly captured the aura of the dozens of figures. What made their faces turn ugly was that among the dozens of figures, there were 5 experts from the 10 great clans. The Ghoul tribe and the Phoenix people were needless to say. After all, when Zhuan was at the Sorcerer Song Conference, he had a lot of enmity with these 2 clans. It was expected that the experts from these 2 clans would attack him. But in addition, there were 3 other experts from the 10 great clans involved. Zhuan had already sensed that these 3 clans were the Mermaid tribe, the Black Tiger tribe, and the Dragon tribe. Furthermore, Zhuowen's senses hadn't been wrong. These 5 races had all sent out experts on the level of Master Transcendence. Were they trying to kill Zhuowen in one fell swoop and then divide his secrets? Not long after the sneak attackers left, a group of law enforcers from Sorcerer God City quickly arrived. The leader of this group of law enforcers was a thin middle-aged man. His skin was red, and even his hair and beard were the same red. Who is it? How dare you attack and destroy wantonly in Sorcerer God City? You are simply courting death. The law enforcer roared angrily. Soon, he noticed the inn that was enveloped by the green jade array. It was the inn where Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star stayed. Within a radius of dozens of miles, all the other buildings were in ruins. However, this inn was intact and stood out among the crowd. A sky-reaching defensive array? The law enforcer soon noticed the array that was emitting a faint light around the inn. He came to the array and said in a deep voice, "Friends inside, remove the array and come out quickly. I have some questions for you." As soon as the law enforcer finished speaking, the green jade array gradually dissipated into powder. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star walked out. "Oh, it's you. You are Long One and Crepe Myrtle Star, right?" The law enforcer was stunned and immediately blurted out their pseudonyms. Zhuowen was not surprised. The Sorcerer Song Conference was such a grand event. Basically, all the foreign clans in Sorcerer God City knew about it. After all, the two of them had won the quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. They were quite famous. Not many people in Sorcerer God City did not know them. Chapter 3351. Slander, fellow cultivator, the destruction of the surrounding buildings has nothing to do with us. Some people secretly launched a surprise attack on the inn where we are staying. That's why it's like this. The Purple Star Sovereign cupped his fists and said politely. The enforcer nodded and said indifferently, "In that case, do you know who participated in the surprise attack? It's best if you tell us their names." "We don't know their names, but I know which clans did it," Zhuowen said. Which clans?" the enforcer asked. "The Phoenix people, the Ghoul clan, the Mermaid clan, the Black Tiger clan, and the Dragon clan." "Fellow cultivator, I think you'd better go to the residences of these 5 clans and ask them what they mean by this. Do they think that I, Long One, am easy to bully, so everyone wants to bully me?" Zhuowen said coldly. The enforcer frowned when he heard that. The 5 clans that Zhuowen had mentioned were all from the top 10 clans, and each of them was extremely powerful. Although these 5 clans were not as powerful as the Sorcerer clan, when the 5 clans joined forces, even the Sorcerer clan had to take them seriously. Not to mention your lowly status, even your ability to slander is not small. You said that our 5 clans did such evil deeds. Do you have any evidence? If you don't, then you're slandering us. Suddenly, a gloomy voice came from afar. Zhuowen and the enforcer turned their heads and saw the Ghoul clan's leader, Shir-In Marsh, slowly walking over with a group of people. Zhuowen also found that behind Shir-In Marsh, in addition to the Ghoul clan's team, the 3 leaders of the Mermaid clan, the Black Tiger clan, and the Dragon clan were also following. Only the Phoenix people's team was missing. The leader of the Mermaid clan was called Yongshi. He was extremely tall and looked like a small giant. The leader of the Black Tiger clan was called Husha. His entire body was covered with a black mane, and he had a human body and a tiger head. He looked extremely ferocious. The leader of the Dragon clan was called Zhong Long. He had a human body and a dragon head. He was the tallest among the group, and he looked like a crane in a flock of chickens. These 3 patriarchs all glared at Zhuowen like tigers eyeing their prey, their eyes filled with ridicule. "I am Yuan Gang, the vice commander of the law enforcement team. Greetings to the 4 clan heads. I really didn't expect that the commotion this time would actually draw the attention of the 4 patriarchs." Yuan Gang cupped his fists and spoke in a rather polite manner. "Our residence isn't far from here. Since there was such a huge commotion just now, it naturally attracted our attention, so we came together to take a look. But I never expected that someone would slander us as soon as we arrived here. It's simply disgraceful and arrogant to the extreme," Corpse-In Marsh said indifferently. "Corpse clan leader, please be at ease. We will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. I won't let you suffer for nothing. Also, our president, Sir Yang Shi, is on his way. He should be here soon to uphold justice for you." Yuan Gang did not dare to be negligent. Zhuowen's face turned a little ugly. From Yuan Gang's attitude, he could faintly feel that Yuan Gang was leaning towards Corpse Yin Marsh's side and was even trying to curry favor with Corpse Yin Marsh. Of course I trust your Sorcerer Clan's law enforcement team. After all, our clan has been supporting your Sorcerer Clan for so many years. I believe that your Sorcerer Clan will definitely not wrongly accuse us. Otherwise, we will be bitterly disappointed. Corpse Yin Marsh said meaningfully. Yuan Gang cupped his fists again and lowered his head. Then he looked at Zhuowen and said, Fellow Long One, you said that the surroundings were caused by the Corpse Clan and the other clans joining forces to attack you. I wonder if you have any evidence? Zhuowen looked on coldly and said in a deep voice, They came quickly and left quickly. Moreover, they were all in disguise. I can only sense that the aura on their bodies belonged to the Corpse Clan and the other clans, but I didn't have time to do any evidence. Long-One, how dare you slander us without any evidence? How should we punish you? Corpse Yin Marsh shouted coldly. After all, we are one of the 10 great clans. We do things in an open and above-board manner. Why would we do something like a surprise attack? You are just a small clan, but your ability to slander others is not small. This kind of guy who is full of nonsense should be eliminated directly to prevent him from harming others in the future. Dragon Clan's patriarch, Zhong Long, said contemptuously. Black Tiger Clan's patriarch, Hu Sha, and Merman Clan's patriarch, Yong Shi, also spoke out. They condemned Zhuowen and suggested that it would be best to kill Long One on the spot. Zhuowen's face turned uglier and uglier. He looked at the law enforcement team's deputy commander, Yuan Gang. He could see that Yuan Gang was in a dilemma and couldn't make up his mind. Yuan Gang, what's going on? Why did you call me over in such a hurry? Suddenly, a loud and clear voice broke the clamor of this place. A tall and burly sorcerer tribesman walked over with big strides. His eyes shone brightly like the moon. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed the moment he saw the Sorcerer Clan expert. This was because he was no stranger to the Sorcerer Clan expert. He was actually the leader of the Sorcerer Clan who had appeared in the Starry Sky battlefield and planned to attack and occupy the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. Back then, the Yangtang Alliance was very impressive. His cultivation had reached the middle stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. Moreover, due to his powerful Sorcerer Clan bloodline, his strength was much stronger than an ordinary Master of Heaven Ascension. He had once beaten the Eastern Sect Master, Tan Xinghua, who was also at the middle stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension, half to death. If Zhuowen hadn't saved him with the Starry Sky Cannon, Tan Xinghua would have died at the hands of the Yangtang Alliance. This showed how powerful and terrifying the Yangtang Alliance was. Greetings, Commander. Yuan Gang cupped his hands and said. The Yangtang Alliance nodded and then glanced at Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star. His gaze then fell on Corpse Yin Marsh and the others. Brother Yangtang, long time no see. You are still as elegant as before. Corpse Yin Marsh cupped his hands towards the Yangshi Union in a rather friendly manner, while the 3 Lords of Dragon Clan, Black Tiger Clan, and Merman Clan also cupped their hands towards the Yangshi Union in a rather polite manner. Although the Yangjiao combination's cultivation level was slightly weaker than theirs, it was still extremely powerful. Even if the Yangjiao combination was not a match for the late-stage Skirich Master, it was still extremely powerful. However, it would be extremely difficult for an ordinary expert in the later stage of Tongtian Lord to kill Yangshi. After all, Yangshi had the bloodline of the Sorcerer tribe, which was much stronger than an ordinary disciple of the Sorcerer tribe. It could be said that he was blessed by nature. Brother Corpse, Brother Tiger, Brother Dragon, and Brother Eternal Stone, it has indeed been a long time. If it weren't for the Wusong Conference, I wouldn't have been able to meet you all at once. I just don't know what exactly happened here. The young-tongued ensemble asked. The matter is very simple. It's like this ant from a small clan called Long One actually slandered us, saying that we destroyed a radius of 10 miles, and he has no evidence to prove that we did it. We are truly somewhat wronged. Corpse Yin Marsh sighed softly. How could there be such a thing? The Yangtang Alliance's eyes widened, and then he looked coldly at Xun. He said to Yuan Gang, these 2 people are so rebellious, slandering others without reason. They really don't put the sorcerer tribe in their eyes. I see that the surrounding area was destroyed by these two people, yet they still dare to slander others. Do they think we are fools? Capture them. Yuan Gang was stunned. He hesitated for a moment and said softly, Lord Yangteng, these two people are the winners of the Wu Song Conference. If we capture them now, shouldn't we? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.